Herzog and his partner, Red Schoendienst, meanwhile, in reading Lasorda talking about walk him and pitch to that blank Van Slyke. That's what he just muttered in the dugout. I think it was a rhetorical question. Do I walk him and pitch to that so-and-so? He's not going to walk him. It is Jack Clark and Tom Niedenfuhr going head-to-head, and the ball game on the line, and the crowd on its feet. And he hits one to deep left field, and that one is gone. And Lasorda got the answer to his rhetorical question. Something about, should I walk this guy and pitch to that so-and-so? Well, he didn't walk him.
Again, the 3-2. The bases are loaded. Sundberg is the hitter.
It'll be a tough decision, but Bobby Cox has got to start thinking of getting him out of there if he's tiring, and perhaps we'll say hanky.
In the air to right, Barfield going back. Look out for the wind. It hits the top of the fence, and I believe it's still in play. Yes, it is. 2 runs will score, 3 runs score. It's a triple for Sundberg. He missed a grand slam by the narrowest of margins. It hit the top of the fence, but as it is, it's a 3-run triple. And Kansas City's lead goes to 5-1.
Two pitch on the way. Swung on and a drive. Way back. Left field by line.
Shot. Diving play by Ozzie. Long throw. You wouldn't believe it.
Quisenberry sends him home unhappy.
Ozzie stealing. The pitch. Swung on. Base hit. Here comes Ozzie. It's a winner.
Strike 3 call. Saberhagen not only wins his 20th, but he puts the Kansas City Royals back into a dead even tie with the Angels in the Western Division of the American League.
It's gone. Tommy Herr hits a 2-run homer. The Cardinals pull off another miracle.
Swing, and the ball hit off the glove into center field. Sheridan comes in to score, and the Royals have won the West.
And they won the Eastern Division and head into the playoff.
Into left center. Back goes Mosby, along with Bell. Forget it. Home run Brett.
Smith corks one into right down the line. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy.
And this may do it for the Royals. For the second time in their history, they're on their way to the World Series.
Swinging a long one into left field. Adios, goodbye, and maybe that's a winner. And they may go to the World Series on that one, folks.
The quest for baseball's most glittering prize. After a thrilling year, it all comes down to the Kansas City Royals and the St. Louis Cardinals on the road to royalty, the 1985 World Series. ABC Sports presents the 1985 World Series. From Royal Stadium in Kansas City, Game 1, the St. Louis Cardinals against the Kansas City Royals. The Cardinals, down 2-0 in the playoffs, came back to beat the Dodgers, winning 4 straight, capped off by this dramatic Jack Clark home run Wednesday. Meanwhile, Kansas City down 3-1 to Toronto, won the last 3 over the Blue Jays. Jim Sundberg's triple broke open Game 7. So tonight, the Battle of Missouri, the battle for the World Championship, the Cardinals and the Royals. And hi again, everyone. I'm Al Michaels, and welcome to this little interstate squabble, otherwise known as the 1985 World Series. It has been a momentous year in baseball. Everybody Watching Pete Rose in his pursuit of Ty Cobb all season long, which ended successfully, Pete becoming the all-time hit leader in September. On a brilliant day in August, Tom Seaver won his 300th at Yankee Stadium in New York. A couple of hours later, across the continent, Rod Carew of the Angels picked up his 3,000th hit. And on the final day of the regular season, Phil Niekro of the Yankees joined Seaver as a 300-game winner. Also, there was the sophomore jinx that afflicted Dwight Gooden. He actually lost 4 games in between winning 24 in 1985. On the other side, a lot of problems this year in baseball as well. There was that strike that really turned out to be nothing more than a mini vacation, but overriding the baseball drug problem and the highly publicized trial in Pittsburgh, putting a cloud over the sport in the year 1985, a situation which the commissioner, Peter Ueberroth, has vowed to rectify in the very near future. But for right now, for the next week or so, the attention focused on the Show Me State. St. Louis against Kansas City as we're ready for Game 1 of the World Series. Funny to have Mr. October in the booth. His bat may be in cold storage in this particular month in this year, 1985, but his microphone is very hot. Reggie Jackson will join us for pregame analysis throughout the series. First of all, since it is an odd-numbered year, number one, it has to be pointed out, no designated hitter in the World Series, Reggie. How much does this affect Kansas City?
I think this is going to affect Kansas City a great deal, Al. The fact that Hal McRae cannot play, their number one designated hitter. A DH team between McRae and George Order. A couple other fellows contribute 114 RBIs. Hal McRae contributed 70 of those RBIs. And make note of this, Hal McRae against John Tudor lifetime has 13 hits and 28 at-bats, and he has more home runs, 5, than any other player in the major leagues against Johnny Tudor.
Let's talk about the John Tudor factor. He was the ace of the Cardinals staff, 21-game winner. He can pitch conceivably 3 games if it goes 7. Is he the key to a St. Louis victory in the series?
Well, he'll be the key if he goes out and wins the starts he's supposed to pitch, Al. Has a chance to get 3 starts in this World Series. He's got 5 days rest right now, and he's well rested to start tonight's ball game. And of course, he has a chance to get 3.
One of the fascinating aspects about the World Series, Reggie, is that people like yourself and Willie Mays have had great series. Everybody expects it. Once in a while, somebody like an Al Weiss or a Brian Doyle has a scintillating 8 minutes in the sun, as was the case a few years back. Who do you expect to be Mr. October of 1985?
You know, Al, I think this is a time when when the great players come up and say, I want the ball, I want to be in the batter's box in the 9th inning. And when a player comes out to you and he says, I'm just going to play it like another day, I don't really like that kind of an attitude. I like the guy that realizes what the situation is and realizes what's in front of him. You've seen the great players display their talents like Brooks Robinson and Roberto Clemente, and some of the players that aren't as well known like Bucky Dent and, of course, the fellows like Brian Doyle. For this World Series, I like Ozzie Smith. He wants to show people he can play offense. On the other side of the ledger, I got to go and jump on everybody's bandwagon. I like George Brett, but watch out for a man named Frank White. He's shown me an awful lot since I played against him in the last 8-9 years.
All right, sir, the envelope is here, and the winner is?
I like Kansas City, 7 games.
Kansas City in 7, says Reggie, and we'll continue our pregame show from KC in a moment.
The following message furnished by Major League Baseball.
Set your sights on the best in baseball. Order the 1985 World Series program. It's chock full of facts with World Series rosters and history and more than 100 pages of articles and photographs, making the World Series program a collector's item, and it's the same one sold at the ballpark. Send $6 check or money order to World Series Program, Box 8585, Trenton, New Jersey, 08650. That's Box 8585, Trenton, New Jersey.
Royal Stadium is filling up. Pre-game pageantry continuing, and time now to meet the players. The public address announcer here is Jack Layton.
Let's meet the Cardinal support staff. Equipment manager Buddy Bates. Trainer Gene Gieselman. And now the Cardinals coaches. Coach Red Shaindiest. Coach Hal Lanier. Coach Nick Leyva. Coach Johnny Lewis. And in the bullpen, Coach Dave Ricketts and Coach Mike Rourke and catcher Randy Hunt. And now the rest of the Cardinals. Infielder, Ivan De Jesus. Infielder, Tom Wallace. Outfielder, Andy Van Slyke. Infielder, Mike Jorgensen. Catcher, Tom Nieto. Outfielder, Brian Harper. Outfielder, Steve Braun. Outfielder, Vince Coleman. Pitcher, Bob Ford. Pitcher, Jim Floppy. Pitcher, Danny Cox. Pitcher, Bob Morrell. Pitcher, Bill Campbell. Pitcher, Tim Daly. Pitcher, Joaquin Andújar. Pitcher, Rick Horton. And pitcher, Kurt Epshire. And now the St. Louis starting lineup. Here's starting manager, Whitey Herzog. He's batting second, 353 average. He's leading off and playing center field, William McGee. The most active player in the National League Championship Series. He's batting second and playing shortstop, Ozzie Smith. The first Cardinals second baseman in more than half a century to drive in 100 runs. Batting third and playing second base, Tommy Hurt. His dramatic ninth-inning home run puts St. Louis in the World Series. Fourth and playing first base, Matt Clark. He batted .429 in the championship series, including 4 hits in Game 4. He's batting fifth and playing left field, Tito Landrum. He batted over .400 in the Cardinals stretch drive. He's batting sixth and playing right field, Cesar Cedeno. He had 11 game-winning RBIs in the second half of the season. He's batting seventh and playing third base, Terry Pendleton. He's playing in his third World Series, including both St. Louis and Kansas City. He's batting eighth and catching Gerald Porter. He won 20 of his last 21 decisions in the regular season. Warming up in the bullpen and batting ninth, the ninth starting pitcher, John Tudor. And now, let's welcome the members of the 1985 American League champions. First, let's meet the Royal support staff. Equipment manager, Al Zeke. Trainers, Mickey Cobb and Paul McGannon. And now, the Royals coaches. Hitting coach, Lee May. Third base coach, Mike Ferraro. First base coach, Jose Martinez. In the bullpen, coaches Gary Blaylock and Jim Schaefer. And now the rest of the team. Infielder, Onyx Concepcion. Outfielder, George Horta. Infielder, Greg Pryor. Outfielder, Dane Orge. Outfielder, Hal McRae. Catcher, John Wathen. Outfielder, Pat Sheridan. Pitcher, Mike Jones. Catcher, Jamie Quirk. Pitcher, Dennis Leonard. Pitcher, Mark Dubasov. Pitcher, Steve Farr. Pitcher, Joe Beckwith. Pitcher, Dan Quisenberry. Pitcher, Brett Saberhagen. Outfielder, Lynn Jones. Pitcher, Charlie Leibrandt. And pitcher, Buddy Black. And now the Kansas City starting lineup. Here is Royals manager Dick Howser. He's playing in his third World Series with 3 different teams, including both the Cardinals and Royals. He's leading off and playing left field, Lonnie Smith. He hit .310 in the American League Championship Series. He's batting second and playing center field, Willie Wilson. The most valuable player in the American League Championship Series. He's hitting third and playing third base, George Brett. A 6-time Gold Glove winner and the most valuable player of the 1980 Championship Series. He's batting fourth and playing second base, Frank White. A 6-time Gold Glove winner. He's batting fifth and catching, Jim Sundberg. He hit a career high 17 home runs this season. He's batting sixth and playing right field, Darryl Motley. He set a Royals record with 36 home runs this season. He's batting seventh and playing first base, Steve Balboni. He had the key hit in Game 6 of the Championship Series and contributed outstanding defense. He's batting eighth and playing shortstop, Buddy Biancalana. He turned the Championship Series around with a shutout over Toronto in Game 5. Warming up in the bullpen and batting ninth, the night's starting pitcher, Danny Jackson. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's color guard is being presented by the United States Recruiting Station in Kansas City. the Kansas City Royals invite you to stand and join with the 1984 and 85 Country Music Association Female Vocalist of the Year, MCA recording artist Reba McEntire, as she honors America with the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight and o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Gorgeous night in Kansas City. It's dry, temperature in the high 60s as we get set for Game 1 of the 1985 World Series. Live, Kansas City, Missouri. Royal Stadium seats about 40,000. Every seat naturally sold. Sell out tonight, sell out tomorrow for Game 2, and we welcome you to Game 1. Al Michaels joined now by Jim Palmer and by Tim McCarver, who have worked Monday Night Baseball throughout the season and both have extensive World Series experience as players. Jim with the Baltimore Orioles for many years. So let me turn to you first, Jim, and talk about a little bit about what Reggie and I discussed on the pregame show, the absence of the designated hitter. Hal McRae was only pinch hit in the World Series. Will, in your estimation, the Cardinals spend the entire series then pitching around George Brent?
Well, not if Lonnie Smith, who's leading off for the Royals, gets on and Willie Wilson before him. Otherwise, I mean, when you go into a big World Series like this, yesterday they had a scouting report, the Cardinals did, and they said, don't let Brett beat you. Well, Toronto had a similar thing. Brett hit 3 home runs, had 8 hits, 5 RBIs. They will say, don't let him beat you, but if Smith and Wilson get on, you're going to have to pitch to Brett.
Is the key to a Kansas City victory solid, steady pitching?
That will do a lot. They have 2 left-handers. Jackson and Lee Brandt will pitch tomorrow. St. Louis had a great record against right-handers, only 30-26 against left-handers. So if Jackson and Lee Brandt get them off on the right foot, they have a good chance. Dick Howser says they know it's not going to be easy, but they think they've won every big game all season. They can still win.
And your quick prediction is?
I really don't know. They've won, as I said, they won every big game they've had to win. Kansas City could win, but everything points to the Cardinals.
All right, let's turn now to Tim McCarver. Let's talk about the St. Louis Cardinals, and everybody naturally begins with the St. Louis speed.
Well, you have to. I think the St. Louis Cardinals can beat you in a lot of ways, Al. They can beat you first with speed. 314 stolen bases, led the major leagues. They can beat you with average. They batted 264 as a team. That led the National League. And they have timely power hitting, as exhibited in Games 5 and 6 of the National League Championship Series. Ozzie Smith with the dramatic home run to beat the Dodgers in Game 5, 3-2. And, of course, Jack Clark's three-run poke to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers in Game 6. And, of course, then there's defense. They've got those hump getters in the outfield. Anything with a little loop in it, they catch. The only way, as a matter of fact, you're going to get a hit on a ball like that is to hit it out of the ballpark.
Is their bullpen by committee good enough to offset Dan Quisenberry?
Well, the reason it's good enough, not only to offset Dan Quisenberry, but good enough to offset the Royal hitters, is that Whitey Herzog can left-right you to death with Daly, Lottie, and Todd Worrell.
And your prediction, sir?
The Cardinals in 6th, but if the Royals do win it, it'll be the 3 left-handed starters, in my opinion, that'll determine the Royals' victory.
I like the Royals in 7 because we're in Kansas City, and I want to get out of the booth alive. Meanwhile, it's time for the ceremonial first pitch, and let's again join Jack Layton.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we would like to direct your attention to the Royals dugout area for tonight's ceremonial first pitch of the 1985 World Series. In 1969, Muriel and Ewing Kaufman demonstrated a great faith in Kansas City and the Mid-American region by bringing Major League Baseball back to Kansas City. With their purchase of the Kansas City Royals, their faith has been rewarded with 6 American League Championship Series and now a 2nd World Series. We honor this distinguished couple tonight for their many contributions to the Kansas City community and Major League Baseball. Mr. and Mrs. Kaufman will pitch their first balls to Royals catcher Jim Sundberg. First, Mrs. K. And now it's your turn, Mr. K. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. K. And now let's get set to begin the 1985
So, the preamble is over. And right now, let's get ready for Chapter 1, the Royals and the Cardinals.
The 82nd World Series is a meeting of 2 interstate rivals, the Royals of Kansas City and the Cardinals of St. Louis. And no Missouri compromise is in the offing. 2 cities separated by 250 miles, now joined together in the October spotlight. Game 1 at Royal Stadium, home of the American League champions. And first ball honors go to Mr. and Mrs. Ewing Kaufman of the Royals. Mr. and Mrs. K throw strikes, and the 1985 World Series is moments away.
Let's take a look at Kansas City defensively now. Steve Balboni, who set a club record for home runs this season, is at first base. And Frank White, who has won his share of gold gloves, is the second baseman. The shortstop, and now playing on an everyday basis after being platoon this season, Buddy Biancalana. And you know who is at third. And he showed what he could do in the playoffs against Toronto with his glove as well as the bat. In the outfield, Lonnie Smith, who started the season with St. Louis, is in left field. And then Willie Wilson, the center fielder, who still covers as much ground as anybody. And around in right for Kansas City is Darryl Motley, who will be platooned with Pat Sheridan. Back of the plate, Jim Sundberg, longtime Texas Ranger who came over in a deal with Milwaukee. And on the mound, left-hander Danny Jackson, who would not be considered the ace of the Kansas City staff by any stretch of the imagination, but the way it has turned out with Saberhagen's problems and with the playoffs going 7, Danny Jackson does get the start in Game 1. And Danny Jackson, as the PA announcer indicated, really did turn the playoffs around with a scintillating performance in Game 5 on Sunday. So here we go with the switch-hitting Willie McGee, the league batting champion, leading off, and we're underway with a strike. The Cardinals, as most of you know, loaded with switch hitters, even though Vince Coleman is out of the lineup tonight. McGee is one of them. Willie hit .348 right-handed and .356 left-handed. Fouled away in the count 0-2. So you're not getting a bargain with Willie batting from either side as you look at Vince Coleman, who indicated before the game that he had hoped to be back into the lineup by the middle of next week, maybe Game 3 or 4.
It's the outside of his left knee that is bruised in that strange accident at St. Louis last Sunday evening.
Victim of the runaway tarp, and the 0-2 pitch is just inside. 1-2. Pretty tough pitch to take with 2 strikes.
Well, it certainly was. In the game plan for the Kansas City pitching staff, even though you have to think of St. Louis being a very aggressive running team, is to challenge them to get ahead of them and try to make pitches just like he just did. And there you see the hard slider.
So Willie McGee has gone on strikes. And the man who hit .353 during the regular season goes down here in the first.
Well, Jackson with a fastball well over 90 miles per hour. Here you see the hard slider. McGee completely fooled. He really has only 2 pitches. He has a fastball, but he can run it in, and he can also run it away from you, and then he has that hard slider. A changeup he's been working on, but as you said, Al, he's a very young pitcher, only 23 years of age, and it's his 3rd best pitch, and they really don't use it very much.
Ozzie Smith, with career highs in all of the categories this season offensively, signing that $2 million contract because of his glove, went out to prove he was not a one-dimensional player, and just asked Tom Niedenfuer. Smith, the hero in Game 5, and then a big triple in Game 6. The umpires, a split crew: Don Denkinger back at the plate, American League, then Billy Williams, National, Jim McKean, American, Bob Engel, National, Shulock, American, and Quick, National, down the lines. 1-1 the count.
Yeah, in Game 6, Ozzie Smith, of course, drove in the tying run with that triple, driving in Willie McGee. And then that game was won by Jack Clark's 3-run home run.
Ozzie takes low, and the count 2 balls and 1 strike. Whitey Herzog, the manager of the Cardinals, and it's home sweet home in many ways for him, because he managed the Royals and he lives in Independence, which is a couple of exits up I-70. Hit on a hop to the hole and backhanded by Biancalana, who throws him out. So one shortstop shows the other he's got a pretty good arm, and there are 2 away.
Batting third, number 28.
2 out and the base is empty, and Tommy Herr. You heard the term career year, and that's exactly what Herr had. 302 average, and he slumped the second half of the season with 8 homers, and a very odd pair of figures there, because when you drive in 110, you normally are in double digits in home runs.
He had 6 career home runs coming into this year and a 276 lifetime average.
Easy to drive in 110 when you've got a guy who steals 110 bases and a league batting champion batting in front of you.
Well, you'd think that, but again, when you talk to people, you talk about sometimes a lot of hitters don't like to hit when you have guys on base. It's distracting. I remember Frank Robinson for years played with the Orioles, did not like to have that base runner on first base for the fake runs, and Vince Coleman does that a lot when he plays. Felt it distracted him, took his eye off the strike zone, made him maybe swing at more pitches than he liked to.
Well, Herr had some experience because he used to bat second in the order, and then they moved him down to third, so he knows what it's like to give himself up, but he doesn't have to do that in the 3-hole. Little squibber, Jackson slips, and so it's Brett's play, and he's still able to gun him down. George charging to throw him out, and the Cardinals go out in order. After a half, St. Louis nothing, Royals coming up. Offensively for the St. Louis Cardinals, the outfield with Coleman gone. It's Landrum, McGee, and Cedeno in right. Pendleton, Smith, Herr, and Clark in the infield. Porter back at the plate. Tudor on the mound, who won 20 of his last 21 decisions. Were it not for Dwight Gooden, he probably would win the Cy Young Award. He's a guy who throughout his career has been a .500 pitcher, and so he asked Darrell Porter, his battery mate, what has made the difference and why he has changed this year.
Well, it's just that I don't know. It's hard to believe that he was always a .500 pitcher after watching him this year. He started out, he had kind of a rough go at first. He was like 1-7, but people don't realize that Joaquin Andujar was 7-1 at that time, and they both had exactly the same identical ERAs, and he had a little tough luck then. But then he really just got going in a streak where he just put the ball where he wanted to put it. He'd never made any mistakes. He was on the black all the time, and he's got the greatest changeup and the greatest arm motion on a changeup that I've ever seen. He's almost effortless out there, but that's the key for a big league success as far as a pitcher goes, is having control.
That old phrase, hitting the black, since the white plate is edged in black, and if you hit it, you normally get the strike, and Tudor's the kind of guy that really needs to use the black.
Well, he does live on the corners. There's no doubt about that. Timmy, you've seen him pitch many times.
Well, the one thing he does, he has a hitter going 4 ways. He uses the inside and the outside part of the plate to get him going in and out, to back him away and make him reach away. And then he uses his changeup to have him go forward, and then when they're looking for a changeup or balls in or out, then he's got the breaking ball or the fastball that keeps him back. So in effect, he's got the hitter going 4 ways.
It all sounds so simple, but somebody still has to explain to me how a guy with his career record can have that type of season.
I think it all falls into place. He talks about being 1-7. He had just lost his 7th game. One of his friends called him, said that his motion was all out of kilter. He has a gathering point at the top of his motion, and we'll be able to see that. Of course, I think the one thing that may affect him tonight is that he has a couple extra days of rest, and that could make him a little bit strong. He does live, as we said, with his control.
Facing Lonnie Smith, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Tudor last pitch in that Cardinal blowout of the Dodgers on Sunday. Interesting little thing happened there, too. Herzog had the benefit of taking Tudor out of that game with that gigantic lead in case there was a 7th to save John for the 7th game. And as it turns out, he winds up pitching with 5 nights rest.
So the Cardinals were certainly fortunate at winning Wednesday and they didn't have to play on Thursday. And obviously, Tudor's able to start tonight.
1-2, Dick Howser. And everybody a week ago talking about Dick Howser and his losing streak in postseason. Boy, did he end that with a bang.
4 in a row.
Nope, 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. 3 in a row. The last 3. That's right. Cardinals were the winners of their last 4. Down 2-0 to the Dodgers. They came back and won 4 in quite dramatic fashion.
Lonnie Smith hits a fly ball to shallow right field, and Cesar Cedeno, who was acquired in August from the Reds, makes the catch. 1 away. Interesting little thing with Lonnie Smith. He can be voted shares by both teams. He started the season with the Cardinals, and he finishes with the Royals. Though in checking with the commissioner's office, you can only get 1 full share, and you know the Royals are going to vote him a full share, even though he was here only about 80% of the time. It would be great, though, if you could play both ends against the middle like that.
Guarantee you.
Just collect the winner's share. Willie Wilson hits it in the air to right field, and so Cedeno is a busy man at the outset. 2 9s in the scorebook and 2 gone in the first inning. And the ovation will build, and what an ovation that was during the introductions for George Brett. He of the lifetime contract.
You see the graphics there at 335, and it goes back to what we talked about in the pregame. Toronto said they were going to pitch around him. He hit 345 in the playoffs. I mean, and they said, hey, we don't want this guy to beat you. Yet he's still got his hits. Of course, John Tudor, and again, Timmy, you've seen him. I saw him pitch a game against the Mets. Strawberry and Hernandez, and maybe Keith Hernandez, one of the toughest lefties against lefties. He really did make him look bad with his breaking ball.
He won't throw that El Swervo of his until he gets 2 strikes. He likes to work both sides of the plate with a fastball and can jam left-handed hitters.
1-0 pitch is a strike, and the count is 1-1. 2 out, bases empty in the bottom of the first inning at Royal Stadium in Game 1. No score. 2-1.
I really think the key tonight, Al, to look is where Darrell Porter moves to. And of course, Timmy, you being a former catcher, you will see Porter move in and out, and you can tell whether Tudor's on or off by how much he misses by.
2-2 the count on Brett.
He's thrown him 4 straight fastballs, and I would look, if I were George Brett, when Tudor drops down right now, that big curveball, and that was the curveball you were talking about when he pitched to Met hitters, Hernandez and Strawberry in particular.
Still 2-2. And he swings and misses, chases it. A 1-2-3 inning for John Tudor, the 21-game winner. Both sides out in order, and at the end of 1, no score. So Jack Clark will lead things off for St. Louis as we go to the second inning in his first at-bat since Wednesday. 2 out, 2 on. Dodgers 1 out away from sending it to a 7th game. Was there any doubt? Never in Clark's mind. Guerrero firing his glove to the ground in frustration. Clark greeted by the jubilant Cardinals. Down went the Dodgers in the 9th. And off went the Cardinals into the night back home for the celebration, and then on to Kansas City yesterday.
Al, the only doubt in that ball game was whether Jack Clark should have been walked with Andy Van Slyke on deck.
And everybody will talk about that, but again, as Lasorda said, hey, I had to make the decision, and I had to make it then. Clark takes a strike. 0-1. Clark, Landrum, and Cedeno against Danny Jackson. Another strike, and the count is 0-2. Clark questioning that call. And again, an American League umpire working behind the plate tonight, Don Denkinger.
And a
good American League umpire. American League umpires took a lot of flack during the playoffs.
That's a looper, and it's hit through Balboni at first base for the out. So Clark is gone and one away.
Perfect example right there. Again, Jackson got ahead of Clark, threw that fastball that he cuts inside. Really gives him another pitch and jam Jack Clark. Little blooper to Balboni. But going back to the umpire situation, Al, they did take a lot of flack, but Denkinger is a very good ball and strike umpire, not afraid to give you the pitch when you do come inside. A lot of times you'll come inside on a hitter, he'll jump back, and the inclination of the umpire is to say, hey, that's a ball, but he does stay right with the pitch. And you have two pitchers tonight that will pitch inside, and they will get the pitches if they do throw them over.
Tito Landrum with the count 0-1, breaks his bat, hits it softly to White, who corrals it. So 2 soft pops, 2 gone. Jackson starting out by retiring the first 5. 8 batters in the game, and they've all gone down 2 away.
Number 7.
Once again, it looks like a hard slider instead of that cutting fastball right off the fist. Easy play for Frank White.
That's where you jam right-handed or left-handed hitters too. It's at the hands. You drop that ball down about a foot, 6 inches or so. That's that ball down and in, and that to me is the most dangerous area that a pitcher could throw to a hitter. That ball down and in, you don't have to extend your bat head, but you do when the ball's on your hands.
Cesar Cedeno with 2 out, takes a strike. Cesar thanking the Reds for trading him. Cesar spending most of the season, or at least through the middle part of the season, on the bench. Dealt to the Cardinals, dealt there just in time to become eligible for postseason play and a World Series check, as it turns out. Strike, and the count is 0-2.
And Danny Jackson is doing exactly what, when I talked to Gary Blaylock, who's the pitching coach for Kansas City, he says, we know that St. Louis can run. We know that they stole 314 bases, but we have to go after him, and he's throwing a lot of strikes. It's a lot easier to pitch. If you wanted to say any one thing to a young pitcher, you'd say get ahead of the batters, and Danny Jackson so far tonight's been able to do that.
5 up and 5 down, and ahead 1-2 on Cedeno. And he fouls it away. It's funny the way it worked out for Cesar. They picked him up because they needed help at first base. Jack Clark was hurt on the disabled list. So they picked up Cedeno when he became available. Now Clark is back, and yet Cedeno figures prominently again because of that injury to Coleman in the outfield. They need that extra spot filled. So Landrum replacing Vincent left, and Cedeno has been platooning with Van Slyke right. Down he goes. On a 94-mile-per-hour fastball. 2 perfect innings for Danny Jackson. At the end of 1 1/2, the Cards nothing, the Royals nothing. Royal Stadium in Kansas City, a ballpark that opened in 1973. And keep in mind, this is a franchise that was born in only 1969. The Royals have never won a world championship. The Cardinals, meanwhile, have won 9, and that's second only to the Yankees, who won 22. Bottom of the 2nd inning, and Frank White to lead things off. White hitting in the cleanup spot. It's a little squibber out in front of the plate, and Porter is there to throw him out. 1 away. Sundberg is coming up Monday on ABC. America's newest hero, MacGyver, will be seen on a special night at 8 Eastern, 7 Central Time. And after the Monday Night Football game on the West Coast. MacGyver Monday on ABC. Jim Sundberg, one of the heroes in Game 7 with his triple off the top of the fence in right field at Exhibition Stadium. Acquired basically for his defensive prowess and his ability to, what Dick Howser hoped would settle down a young Kansas City pitching staff, and that's pretty much what he's done.
That he has. He has not had an exceptional year throwing, and that, of course, is what he's known for. And there we see manager Dick Howser. But he's a clutch player. I guess when you play for Texas and you play for Milwaukee, you're not really in a pennant race. Sometimes they don't consider you that. But he's a type of hitter that, as we saw with the bases loaded triple, uses all parts of the ballpark. Will hit the ball to right field, doesn't try to go up and pull the ball, And I think back to when they had the big California series, a must-win situation. He hit a home run that put him ahead in a ball game after he had a rib injury, which kept him out for a couple of weeks.
Funny, Sundberg, amongst the Royals, one of the few without postseason experience. This team used to playoff action. They got into the World Series in 1980, the mini playoffs in 81, and the playoffs again in 84. But Sundberg, with a succession of very bad clubs at Texas, fouls it away and the count 2-2.
He was with Texas for 11 years and, of course, over in Milwaukee for 1 year. And that can be a job of drudgery when you're behind the plate and you don't play on a winner. Of course, that goes for everybody, as you see John Tudor's lifetime record against the Kansas City Royals.
2-2 to Sundberg is low. Ball 3.
I thought you and Reggie had an excellent point before the game. Hal McRae, who has 5 of the 9 home runs hit against John Tudor by the Royals, is out of the lineup tonight.
3-2 pitch is outside, ball 4. So Sundberg walks, and Motley will come up. Dick Howser fully aware, of course, of McRae's prowess. The problem with Hal is, as he said yesterday, I don't even have a glove in the closet. So where would you put him?
Even though 5 years ago it was different when Jimmy Frye managed the Royals in the '80s series against the Phillies. Hal McRae was a regular player and did have a good series, as a matter of fact. But of course that was 5 years ago and he wasn't injured at the time, right?
McRae actually started his career at second base.
The Cincinnati chain.
Yep. Darryl Motley, who started the season playing regularly and then wound up being platoon with Sheridan. Low and inside. 1-0 the count. Motley, 222. There's Hal McRae, who will see action unquestionably in this series, but he'll be limited to 1 swing.
He was a DH for the most of that series, as that was an even numbered years, but he did play some defense in that year.
They put him out in left field. I don't know if he played the defense.
That's lined into left field for a base hit. So the game's first hit follows the game's first walk, and the Royals have the game's first threat with Sundberg at second and Motley at first, and Steve Balboni, the all-or-nothing Steve Balboni, coming to the plate. 36 home runs this season, club record, and that's why they pay him. And also 166 strikeouts.
He told me his best year in the minor leagues was the year he struck out, I think, 162 times. He hit 300, hit over 30 home runs. And as you said, all or nothing. He said he hits even worse, and he's a streak hitter, and he's not really been in a good streak. He did drive in a winning run with a blooper to center field, but he will chase just about anything when he is swinging poorly, and he is swinging poorly at the moment. But then again, as you said, Al, he's the type of guy that with 1 swing of the bat, which is exactly why they got him, you're talking home run, and in this case, 3-run home run.
He's also a fellow who will not adjust, even with 2 strikes, or barely adjust anyway. 1-1. He'll swing like that with 2 strikes.
Well, again, he gets ahead in the count. 1 ball, no strikes. He's just looking for the ball. Tudor with a little bit of a changeup swings right through it, but it is a home run swing, and that's what he's going up there. He's going up there, and I'm not going to get cheated. If I hit it, it's usually going to go, and that's why they call him bye-bye Balboni.
Inside, 2-1 the count, Steve.
And you can see where they're trying to pitch him. He has a huge hole in the inside part of the plate, and what pitchers most likely like to do to him is run the ball, the fastball in on him, and then try to get him out and fishing at that breaking ball. Again, when you get ahead, you can have him swinging a few more balls in off the plate.
James low, and the count 3-1. So Tudor digging himself a little bit of a hole here in the second inning with 2 on and 1 out. And he's digging that hole against the bottom of the Kansas City order, when most of the damage, it's to be expected during the series, will have to come from the top.
Well, it goes back to what Reggie said. When you get into a series and you're an underdog, you usually look for somebody to rise to the occasion.
Line into left field for a base hit for Balboni. Ferraro is waving Sundberg in. The throw is cut off by Pendleton and scoots away from him. And so Motley moves to third. And it's 1-0 KC.
Well, this is
is what happens when you fall behind in the count. A 3-1 fastball to a guy who can spank the ball. Tito Landrum in left field may get this error as the ball really short hops Terry Pendleton. It actually hit the bag, and that is an unusual error for Tito Landrum, because coming into this game he had committed only 3 errors in his last 6 years.
For the moment anyway, Tim, they have charged Pendleton with the error as the E5 goes up on the scoreboard.
No way. No way. What do you think?
E7. I don't give the third baseman an error on that play.
No, sir.
Biancalana takes a strike as he bluffs a bunt. The suicide squeeze not on. Motley remaining at third. There is Darrell. There is Balboni. The Cardinal infield is a double play depth. Biancalana, who bats 9th during the regular season, has to move up a spot because the pitcher bats. During the World Series, he hit only 188, and again takes inside, 1-1.
But 269 from the right side. And of course, when you go in and you're thinking about a World Series, and here we see the fastball inside. Again, that's kind of a purpose pitch. Just makes that pitch that Tudor eventually is going to try to establish a way a little bit more effective.
2-1 pitch. Here's the squeeze, and he misses it. So Motley is dead as Pendleton runs him back toward Tudor. Too many throws on this rundown. They tag him, does Smith, and Balboni alertly goes to third. And that's why they call it the suicide squeeze, because if you don't bunt it, you're gone.
If you're the runner on third base, you do not want to break too soon. You notice Motley there left when John Tudor released the ball. Biancalana bunted through the ball. It's not Motley's fault, but the blame lies on Biancalana. And it was up to him to get the ball over, but as you said, Balboni alertly going to third base on the play. Too many throws, but at least the Cardinals got the one man, and that's what you want to do in that situation.
And now with a count 2-2, Biancalana takes inside, ball 3. 3-2 with 2 out. Balboni at third. Royals on top by a score of 1-0. And the 3-2 pitch to Biancalana is inside. So Tudor couldn't take advantage of it, and now has to go to work.
Well, I think he made a determination there. Who do I want to get beat by, or not really beat by hurt by? Biancalana, who has been up and has been batting all year, or a pitcher who hasn't hit ever in the major leagues. And I think maybe that's why he said, I'll make a perfect pitch or I'll walk him.
I'll tell you one thing, if I was catching, I'd want to get Buddy Biancalana out. He's hitting 188. I don't care if he's hitting 270 from the right side. And if you're pitching, I guarantee you're not going to pitch around him. Are you?
So Jackson, who hasn't hit since junior college, takes low, ball 1. He went to Trinidad State JC. He played the outfield there. So you would think he could do some damage. Oh, not a bad swing, 1-1.
Well, he takes a pitch better than he swings at one. I kind of like the first one.
Not only are American League pitchers hitless in that number of at-bats, since they went to the alternate DH, they have only 1 hit in recent World Series history, and that was Tim Stoddard in Pittsburgh.
1979.
79. Bouncer by Madlock through the drawn-in infield. That'll score a run. Crowley stops at third, and it's 8-6. And down he goes. So Jackson was up there trying to get his rips, but Danny Jackson is not Reggie. Balboni drives in the run, and KC leads 1-0 at the end of 2.
1985. After managers Whitey Herzog of the Cards and Dick Howser of the Royals take care of the formalities, Kansas City starter Danny Jackson prepares to take on St. Louis. This night, he's opposed by 21-game winner John Tudor, the Cards ace. And it's actually Tudor who faces the quickest test, with Jim Sundberg on second, Darrell Motley on first, and 1 out in the second inning, as the Royals look to their next hitter, free-swinging Steve Balboni. Coming around to score the first run of the series is Sundberg. much to the delight of the sellout crowd of nearly 42,000. The Royals now have runners at the corners, and the Cardinals are aware that Kansas City will be trying to score any way it can with the 8th man, light-hitting Buddy Biancalana at the plate. The suicide squeeze is missed, and Darryl Motley is as good as dead in the rundown.
Bottom of the order, Terry Pendleton will lead things off for the Cards, and I spoke with him yesterday.
This is your first full season in the big leagues. Have you really had time to just sit back and digest it all and think about the fact that here you are on the eve of the World Series?
No, I really hadn't. I think when the season's over and everything is settled down, I think it'll really hit me, and I'll probably be in the house sitting by myself or with my wife and probably jump up and holler and nobody will know why.
Terry Pendleton leading things off as we go to the third outside. Tim McCarver sitting next to me with, what, 3 World Series? To your credit. Jim Palmer with 6.
Double that.
And Terry Pendleton getting his first taste right here. Fouled away in the count 1-1.
And think of all the great players that have not been to a World Series, Al.
Well, the irony is, and the first
Al
guy
being one, of course.
Yes, that's right. Well, he never had the DH in the early years. That was the problem. 1-1 the count. Inside, the funny thing is, Tim, everybody thinks about Ernie Banks when you talk about great players with over 500 home runs and a Hall of Fame plaque. Ernie Banks never got to the World Series. And then the little ironic twists. Somebody like Steve Farr, the Kansas City reliever. I mean, you talk about low points in one's career. How would you like to be released by Cleveland? And that's what happened to Steve Farr, and he's in the World Series.
That's right.
He was tending bar last year, and now he's sitting in the bullpen.
And the Cardinals have their first base runner with Pendleton drawing the walk. So Terry is aboard, and up comes Porter.
Another great Hall of Famer, Ralph Kiner, who had 368 home runs in 10 years. Second in home run frequency to Babe Ruth. 36.8 home runs a year for 10 years. And never appeared in the World Series.
Your Mets broadcast partner? And he, too, with a Hall of Fame plaque.
Yes, sir.
Darryl Porter, and he's coming home. Not only did he play with the Royals, but Porter is also staying at home. He still lives in the area. So he gets to spend every night in his own bed, as he put it yesterday in the World Series. Runner at first base, Pendleton, with 17 steals, but he was not quite judicious this season. Judicious enough because he was caught 12 times, and that's not a very good percentage.
Not at all. I was talking to him about that last year. He was up and had 20 steals, but then again he said, when you come up and you play, what, 2.5 months, something like that, you steal 20 bases, they pay attention to you a little bit more. And of course, I can tell you right now, he's got Danny Jackson's attention.
Grounded into right field for a base hit. Pendleton around second and on his way to third. The throw comes into second. And so here come the Cardinals with runners at first and third. So each team's bottom of the order is doing the damage.
Tell you see that decoy at second base a lot of times on a ball hit in the infield if the runner's running. But rarely do you see it when the ball's hit to the outfield. Buddy Biancalana gave the decoy to Terry Pendleton as though there were a play on him that the ball went to one of the infielders or that Frank White got to the ball, trying to get him to hold up at second base, but he went to third anyway. Good base running by Pendleton.
So Danny Jackson with runners at first and third, infield double play depth, and Tudor around to bunt with Pendleton remaining at third in the count 1-0. And now Brett will have a word with Jackson. Irony here, too. Jackson, the left-handed pitcher, retires 6 right-handed batters. And then the lefty gets the hit. Tudor bunting, the runner at third holding, and Jackson throwing to first base. So in essence, it's a sacrifice. No squeeze, no suicide or safety even. It's simply a straight sacrifice to get Porter to second base.
Well, as you said, just a sacrifice bunt. Jackson will feel the ball, take a look at third, because he doesn't really know whether it is a suicide squeeze, and then makes the play to White at first. Of course, again, we talked earlier about the success ratio, much more successful against right-handed pitching, and one of the reasons is they do have five switch hitters, and it creates that first and third situation. It creates what Porter did.
That's grounded to the right side, and it will score a run with the infield back as McGee grounds out, and they concede the run with Pendleton scoring from third and Porter advancing to third. And really, there's no way you can play your infield in this situation this early in the game. Runners at second and third, and the league batting champion up there. You got to be back, concede the run, and that's what they do.
You start playing your infield up early on artificial surface, and that's how you have big innings.
So the game is tied 1-1, and Ozzie Smith, the switch hitting shortstop, takes low for ball one. Two and 0 now. Game 2 tomorrow night. Then Monday is the off day. The 3 games in St. Louis are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then back here if necessary next weekend. Up high for ball 3. 3-0 the count.
And of the 5 Cardinal switch hitters, Ozzie's the only hitter that's a better hitter from the right side, average-wise.
Batted over 300 from the right side this year.
And he's aboard.
Of course, his offensive prowess has grown in stature since the playoff series.
First
not only a home run threat, but he's also a triple threat. Of course, he's always been that.
Well, now they're pitching around him to get to her.
I don't think that's a real good idea.
No. Tommy Herr hitting .302 overall this season. As a right-handed batter, he hit .282, and as a left-handed hitter, .313. Smith naturally getting Jackson's attention. Ozzie with 31 steals. Funny thing about the Cardinals, still minus Vince Coleman, 110 steals. What does it mean? Well, if you throw out the 110 steals, the Cardinals still would have led the majors in stolen bases. And there goes Ozzie, and the pitch is a strike, and they just let him have second base. Not even going to fool around.
Well, that's something that Dick Howser, the manager of the Royals, said. We never have to contend with this kind of speed in the American League. Just don't have teams that can run like the Cardinals.
Yeah, but that to me is a give-up play. With Ozzie Smith, it's still the 3rd inning. And Ozzie Smith stealing second base with Tommy Herr and Jack Clark coming up, 2 outs. Now if Herr gets a base hit, you got 2 runs instead of 1.
And also, how many times do you see an inning end on a bang-bang force at second base, which is now removed? But after Jackson juggles it, he picks it up and still throws him out. So he escapes after the Cardinals get just 1, and we're tied after 2.5 at KC. Monday is an off night in the World Series, but of course we'll have Monday Night Football for you. Coming to you from Chicago, the Bears, as you know, are unbeaten 6-0, taking on the Green Bay Packers at 9 Eastern Time. We will be here tomorrow night, same time, 8 Eastern Time. In fact, all of the games in the World Series this year will start at the same time, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, and 5 Pacific Time.
Here in Kansas City tomorrow, they have a doubleheader, right? The Chiefs play in the afternoon, the Royals at night.
Across the parking lot, Arrowhead Stadium, kickoff at 12 o'clock. Game should be over about 3:15, and then tomorrow night, local time here, a 7:30 start. Lonnie Smith taking inside ball 1. Smith, Wilson, and Brett, who went out in order in the first inning, come up here in the 3rd. Game tied 1-1. John Tudor delivers, and the pitch is foul tipped into the glove of Porter for a strike. 1-1. Joaquin Andujar, back-to-back 20 victory seasons. He will pitch the way it looks now, game 3 at Busch Stadium Tuesday. The 2-1 pitch is ripped into left field for a base hit. So Lonnie Smith, who has played with 3 different teams in the World Series, the Phillies in 80, the Cardinals in 82, and now the Royals in 85, will be held on by Clark with nobody out.
It's amazing. Lonnie Smith is the only player ever in World Series history to start off the season with one team and end up against the other team in the World Series, or end up with the other team in the World Series. It's amazing.
Funny how postseason play just seems to follow some guys around. Reggie Jackson, naturally. Joe Morgan was the guy. It didn't matter where Joe was traded. The team always seemed to wind up in the playoffs.
Of course, Cincinnati in the Big Red Machine. Went down to Houston in 1980. Was with the Phillies in the '83 World Series.
And almost got the Giants in '82. He knocked the Dodgers out, in fact, with a last-day home run. 0-1 the count. And they have him picked off as Tudor throws to Clark. Back to Smith, to Clark again. Again, too many throws. And Tommy Herr finally runs him down. I think Lonnie got tired more than anything else. And Smith, who is known to skate around on the AstroTurf, winds up getting tagged on the ground. But he's picked off 12 times. Even though there's no real statistical category in that sense, some of those went into the books as a caught stealing, but 12 times during the regular year did the pitcher catch him off first base.
Well, again, you talked about the optimum amount of throws is really no more than 2, and the Cardinals do not execute, but as you said, it might be a lack of. Not only did he fall down, he was a little bit tired.
Wilson on a check swing fouls it back, and the count, no balls and 2 strikes. 1 out and the base is empty in the bottom half of the 3rd inning. A 1-1 tie.
Kind of a situation, I guess I'm supposed to say Tudor has a pretty good move, and then they show that graphic. He's been picked off 12 times. I guess you really don't have to have a great move, but the one thing that does make Tudor's move and makes him a little bit more difficult to run on is he does hang. Has that hang time, and when left-handers do that, they're difficult to run on.
Tommy Herr takes care of Willie Wilson's pop-up, and with 2 down, George Brett the batter. Tudor struck him out in the 1st inning. George hit .348 during the championship series, 8 for 23 with 3 homers. The great defensive play, and it was a very key play in Game 3. And an MVP trophy, another one for him for the playoffs. Grounded to the left side. Let's see about Ozzie and his acrobatics, and not in time. Not much any mortal can do with that one.
As much on a throw as you can, going way to your right. I think that's probably the most difficult play a shortstop has to make. Brett just kind of smashes it in the hole. He's playing him up the middle. Knows he really doesn't have time to stop and plant his foot. The flip throw, and maybe last year when George, with the hamstring problems and the knee problems, might not have beaten that ball out, but this year weighing a lot less. Dropped from really about 214 pounds, started the season about 180, somewhere in the middle 190s now, beats the ball out easily.
So now the cleanup man, Frank White. He grounded out in the 2nd inning, taking low. Frank, who has hit in all 9 spots in the batting order during his career, muscled up this season with 22 home runs.
And you talked to him about that last year, 17. Previous high was 11, and he says, well, he hit more away from Royal Stadium because this and St. Louis are 2 difficult parks to hit home runs in, unless you're a Reggie Jackson, you know, Balboni, a legitimate home run hitter.
White and Tudor was in the American League, remember, with Boston, and Frank liked to hit against them, obviously. .379. White, the first second baseman to bat cleanup in a World Series since Jackie Robinson in '52. 3-0 the count.
And we are not seeing vintage John Tudor. Again, Timmy, what you've seen, great control, about 1.6 walks per 9 innings, which was 4th in the National League. Yep. He is a little bit off. I mean, he's not making the pitches. I don't really think he's getting as many pitches from Don Denkinger as he may get in the National League, even though the strike zone has come down in the American League.
And White gets the green light with Sundberg on deck, and the count 3-1. And I suppose White, who would rarely get the green light hitting out of the 8 spot when they move him up to 4, he gets it.
It's a good time for it, of course.
Taking advantage of an opportunity that you're not usually going to get against John Tudor. 3-0, you know he's going to throw a strike. Why not take a shot?
Reaches out, grounds it down to Clark, and Jack is right there. So the Royals squander a couple of singles. And at the end of 3, Cards won, Royals won. Al Michaels with Jim Palmer and Tim McCarver as we go to the 4th inning, a 1-1 tie in Game 1, and Jack Clark to lead things off against Danny Jackson, fouling it away. Clark, in his first year as a Cardinal, several seasons with the Giants where he was, for the most part, the best player on a succession of mediocre and bad teams. And he finally got out of Candlestick and plays on a pennant winner. Little chopper hit foul, and the count is 0-2.
I wonder if he sent his thank you note yet to the Giants.
I think he did, yeah. The 3-run home run was a definite thank you note. I mean, it's interesting that the whole season, and talking to all the Cardinals, they say the one thing great about winning this year, now obviously, is getting to the World Series. That's obvious. But number two is that a lot of people picked them to finish last because Bruce Tudor had left and whatever. And Whitey Herzog says this is the one guy that gave us some hope, because this was a true home run hitter for a park that's really not conducive to hitting home runs. And then he comes down to having a 3-run home run to kind of clinch it for you.
2-2 the count, and he did it after he hit only one over the last 6 weeks, basically because he was on the shelf with a rib injury. We talked about the acquisition of Cedeno, which was precipitated by Clark's injury. And down goes Jack, who I think was looking for something else. He's not disputing the call. He just got fooled on the pitch.
Looked like he was looking for the fastball or the slider on the inside part. Sometimes you can look in the wrong location on the plate. You can look for the hard stuff, and obviously you have to against Jackson. But he was looking inside and got caught away.
That's unusual, because a lot of hitters, most hitters will tell you when the count does get to a point where there's 2 strikes, you look for the ball.
And you also protect away, which means you're vulnerable inside, but you can't protect both sides of the plate.
2-0 the count on Landrum. Danny Jackson does not give up many home runs, and this is not really a home run park. It's a very forgiving ballpark.
Honestly, you didn't like this ballpark to pitch?
Well, I didn't, because I think really the Orioles would come in here and we would get our brains beat out, because we just did not have outfielders that could run the balls down in the gaps. I mean, you talked about the humpback liners, anything that you hit over the infield that really has any kind of, and there we see Brett Saberhagen, 20-6. Just about everybody's candidate for Cy Young. A big question mark whether he will pitch on Tuesday night, but seems like he will be in the rotation. But talking about here, if you don't have fast infielders and outfielders, and you throw a lot of fly balls and line drives, you don't like coming here.
Of course, you did have Paul Blair, and he tracked down everything.
I think we already traded him by the time we came to this ballpark.
3-2 pitch is looped down the line in right field, and that's in for a base hit. And Landrum, after hesitating, is on his way to second, and the throw is offline and not in time. Landrum took a long look, and you could see him accelerate. He went into the next gear as he rounded first base.
Well, he took that look, being very aggressive in the process. He ran through the bag and not to the bag, thereby being in the position to take the extra base when Motley gets the ball. It's going to take a perfect throw to get him with 1 out, a good chance to try it. Throw on the outfield part of second base, and Landrum's in there easily.
I'll tell you one thing, Landrum keeps this up, Coleman's leg is going to get better in a big hurry.
Landrum's a good ball player.
Well, I could testify to that. An '83 World Championship team I played on, not only in the 4th game of the playoff does he hit a home run, eventually we win 3-0, but the first run in 10 innings off Britt Burns, but fine defensive outfielder. As you talked about, only, 3 errors in 6 years. Of course, we don't know if he got an error earlier in the ball game, but 4 hits earlier in the 1 game against the Dodgers.
1-1 on Cedeno. They charged that error earlier, and as far as I know, it was still charged to Terry Pendleton. Landrum, one of those guys we talked about before, that the playoffs seemed to follow him around in the World Series. Not only a championship ring with Baltimore, but he was a Cardinal in '82.
Except I don't believe he was active during the World Series. Again, he came up and helped them, which is what he can do. I mean, it typifies the type of player you like to have on your ball club. Number one, he's content sitting on the bench because he does know he's going to get not ample time to play, but sometime he'll go in for defense. He can run the bases well. He's got a great throwing arm. Can he actually hit with a little bit of power? Every time you think he's just a single or a double hitter, he'll hit one over the center field fence.
And Cedeno shatters his bat, and it's a base hit and extra bases with the barrel of the bat near shortstop. The Cardinals take the lead on a double by Cedeno. Back-to-back doubles by Landrum and Cedeno, and St. Louis leads 2-1.
Again, not a bad pitch, but you can see that Cedeno does have some strength. Once hit over 20 home runs and stole 50 bases. He fights that ball off and is strong enough to get it over the infield. Ball again up on the bat. Hit it right on the, really like on the label. You can see the bat flying towards third base.
Jim, that's a frustrating thing from a pitcher and a catcher standpoint. You make a pitch on a guy, it's exactly where you want it. You break his bat, and he's strong enough to get it into the outfield, not only for a hit, but an RBI and a double. It's frustrating.
Now Pendleton at the plate with Cedeno at second base. And one away. Cardinals on top, and he squibs it down to White. Cedeno will go to third as Pendleton becomes the second out of the inning. And Porter will be the batter. There's Tito out of Joplin, Missouri. That's where he was born. He says he's moving back to St. Louis. I think he'd been living in Florida for a while. Army or an Air Force brat. His dad was in the service, and he's lived in several countries. And Gary Blaylock goes to the mound as the Royals bullpen heats up. And Mark Gubazov, a starting pitcher who right now is a long man in this World Series setup, and one of only 8 pitchers that Howser has available. Dick has opted to go with just 8, and that could prove to be very interesting.
Well, it certainly could. I think that Gary Blaylock out here is right now is discussing whether they want to pitch to Porter or pitch around him and pitch to John Tudor.
The reason it's strange to go with 8 pitchers is because the DH, as you know, is not being used. And if you do fall behind early, you may have to use pinch hitters for those pitchers and deplete your bullpen and your pitching staff.
Of course, I think what Dick Howser is thinking about is that he did use Bud Black, who was in the bullpen tonight, and he used his starters and his relievers in dual roles, and he may be doing that during the World Series also. But you do make a very good point. You have to do a lot more switching, a lot more pinch hitting when you don't have the DH.
We saw Howser gesturing to indicate play him basically straight away, which is what they do. Wilson shading slightly toward right. And the count is 1-1. Look at the defensive alignment for the Royals. 1-1 with 2 out. Cedeno, the runner at third. And it's a strike at the count 1-2.
That's a strange place for your batting gloves. Cesar Cedeno has his gloves in the front of his uniform.
Yes.
It's like he just did the yard.
1-2 pitch is low, and the count 2 is pretty tough to do around here with all this plastic.
Ooh, yeah, a lot of yard work, and I don't keep them there. I'll have to think about that.
And down he goes. So Porter strikes out. They work on the number 8 hitter, and they get him. And they strand Cedeno at third through the Cards. Will pick up a run. St. Louis 2, Kansas City 1.
Coming out of the second inning with just 1 run, the Royals find themselves tied by the Cardinals in the third. And in the fourth, Tito Landrum stands in. Landrum has been standing in ever since the 4th game of the league championships when an accident with a mechanized tarpaulin injured the knee of Vince Coleman, the rookie who stole 110 bases. But as Whitey Herzog knows, Landrum can be counted on.
Our ball club wouldn't be here without Tito Landrum. We platoon with Andy Van Slyke, and every time we put him into a clutch situation or somebody gets hurt, he seems to respond. That's the kind of guy you want on your ball club.
Another kind of guy you want is a proven, versatile veteran such as Cesar Cedeno, who came to the Redbirds in August in a trade with Cincinnati, and now finds himself in the World Series after 15 seasons in the big leagues. Landrum scoots home easily, putting the Cardinals ahead 2-1.
Bottom of the 4th inning at Royal Stadium in Kansas City with Sundberg, Motley, and Balboni coming up. Royals got a run in the second, then the Cards tied the game with 1 in the third, added 1 in the 4th. And John Tudor faces Sundberg, who walked and then scored the KC run in the second. And he grounds it fair. He's going to wind up at second base. So he does not make good contact out in front of it, but he winds up with a double.
Again, location is so important, and it looked like an off-speed changeup. Bell high on the inside part of the plate. And on AstroTurf, in fact, almost on any kind of field, you play percentages. Pendleton's off the line, just a kind of a ground ball down the third baseline. Nobody's playing there. 2 bases. Not a great way to start off an inning.
I'll tell you, I have all the admiration in the world for Jim Sundberg. I mean, here's a guy who has caught for 13 years in the major leagues and has never been on the disabled list.
Didn't realize that.
Never been on the disabled list. It's amazing.
Remarkable. A strike, you would figure somewhere along the line you're going to get broken finger or something has to happen in a collision.
How about heat exhaustion? I mean, you can't catch down in Texas. You know how hot it is down there?
Yeah, but you don't take 15 days for that.
No. Well, some people do. I did a few times.
Strike one pitch is hit high in the air to right center field. It's deep, but again, it's a very forgiving ballpark. Sundberg is tagging. Cedeno makes the catch. Jim advances 90 feet, and Sundberg is at third with one away. Here in Kansas City, as we take a look at the ballpark and the dimensions, 330 down the lines, and then it fans out to 385 in the alley, so it takes a pretty good poke, and then 410 to dead center field. No real cheapies here.
I'll tell you what, talking about cheapies, or non-cheapies, and I know Reggie's with us tonight. Lee May, who is the batting coach with Kansas City, I don't know if we can have a shot of the bullpens. On back-to-back pitches, Reggie hits one off the back of the Kansas City bullpen wall, and Lee goes off the other bullpen wall. And Larry Gurr threw them both. I mean, we're talking a couple of miles.
Herzog watching his team trying to protect the 2-1 lead. Balboni up there trying to hit one off some wall, and the infield is back, so they'll give up a run on the ground ball, and the 0-1 pitch is up and in, 1-1.
Al, I'm not so sure they're going to give up a run on a ground ball. The reason I think they're back is because of Sundberg's speed at third base. You can afford to do that on the rug because the ball gets to you quicker.
Foul tip and the count 1-2. I suppose they trust Smith for Ozzie to throw that. The way Murr is playing right now,
it'd be tough for him. That's true.
But what they are doing is creeping in with the pitch. And if the ball's hit hard, you're talking 2 guys that are going to most likely win Golden Gloves.
1-2 pitch is lifted in the air to medium deep left field and foul ground, and Pendleton with some deja vu as Sundberg comes to the plate and is out. And Terry Pendleton has that play down to a science. He did it in the bullpen in St. Louis Saturday. It was a key play, and now he does it again and turns it into a double play. At the end of 4, Cards 2, and the Royals 1.
A very slender lead indeed, and one that quickly seems in jeopardy in the home half of the inning. On third base is Jim Sundberg following his second hit. And at the plate is a man who has driven in his team's only run of the evening, Steve Balboni. But keep your eye on this man, third baseman Terry Pendleton, who knows how to make the tough look easy.
Just really was a pop-up over third base side. I just reacted. I just tried to throw the ball as straight to Darryl as possible. It surprised me that the ball went all the way. I thought I was going to bounce it a couple of times, to be honest with you.
Terry Pendleton standing like a linebacker, ready to go in or back. Look at this play. And he made the play last Saturday against the Dodgers. Of course, the throw after planting the foot. And here's the play with Greg Brock hitting in the 8th inning. Now, what's the difference? It's the bullpen. And the visiting teams, or the mound, I should say. There's the mound. And the visiting team's bullpen. Terry Pendleton can do it on a mound or without a mound, right?
Probably works on that in infield. And there he is with Tudor leading things off in the 5th inning in the count. 0-1. Cards on top, 2-1.
goes back to what you said in the opening, Timmy. You talked about overall team strength, and one of their team strength is overall team speed. You have a slow third baseman, he doesn't get to that ball. Of course, if you have a fast runner on third instead of Sundberg, probably makes the play a little bit closer at the plate.
And the 0-2 pitch. Tudor takes outside, 1-2. McGee on deck, and then we'll see Smith.
Tudor, pretty good hitter. Doesn't hit the home runs, but obviously he must be in shape.
He's gone. 1 out, and McGee coming up.
The center fielder, Willie McGee.
Now Willie McGee, who has struck out and grounded out, and when he grounded out, he drove in a run, and he hits one to the gap, and if that gets through, he has at least 3. As Wilson comes up with the ball, the relay into White, and it's going to be a closer play than you might think. And that is absolute perfection defensively. I stand on what I said. He has at least 3, but that is perfect defense.
It's perfect because Willie Wilson, who was playing shallow, got to the ball in such a hurry. Perfect throw to White. Perfect throw to Brett. Decoyed by Brett. See you later, McGee.
Well, Willie with 18 triples, you know the minute the ball is hit, he's thinking triple. And again, I mean, that's a spring training play. That's something you work on, that you try to formulate in spring training. Here it is, World Series time. You can't do it any better than that.
Clinic relay. 2 perfect throws. White positioned perfectly. And Brett right there for the tag. And so that's the second out, and the pitch is a strike.
I'm sitting up here. I played baseball 18.5 years, and of course I was a pitcher, and I appreciated plays like that, but you get goosebumps because they just did it the way you're supposed to do it.
That's right.
1-2 the count. And there is McGee. Team funny to McGee this time. Now 3-2. Smith drew a walk his last time up, and then Jackson had to get her with 2 on. So Tommy on deck with the count, 3 balls and 2 strikes. 2 out, and the bases empty. Down to White. And Frank gets his second assist of the inning. The other coming on the relay. And again, super slow-mo look at absolute perfection. This is right out of the instructional manual.
Ball did come up to Willie Wilson there, so he did have a good opportunity to position himself. Perfect throw by White. And look at Brett. He's standing like he's waiting on a bus. Good play.
After 4.5, 2-1, St. Louis. Buddy Biancalana lead off for Kansas City. Biancalana, Danny Jackson, and Lonnie Smith facing Tudor. Cards 2, Royals 1, bottom of the 5th inning. Biancalana, who missed a suicide squeeze attempt and cost Kansas City a run by so doing, eventually drew a walk his first appearance. 1-0 the count on Biancalana, who grounds it to Smith. Ozzie takes care of his opposite number, and there's 1 gone here in the 5th inning, and Danny Jackson the batter.
The pitcher, Danny Jackson.
Jackson struck out in the 2nd inning. Again, Danny hitting for the first time professionally. And also keep in mind with the pitchers batting,
swinging
or attempting to hit, Dick Howser has to employ strategy that he has not employed in his major league managing career, because his prior experience to being here in Kansas City was with the Yankees in 1980. 0-2. 2-2 the count. Yeah, we stated it before. Since they went to the alternate DH in the World Series rule beginning in 1976, the American League pitchers with only one hit. Still only one hit.
Well, to me, it's interesting that the National League pitchers have only had 3.
Yep.
You would think there'd be a disparity of greater proportions there.
Some would say that's why they shouldn't have the DH, but then again, if you're a baseball fan, you all remember Stoddard's hit in 1979.
I don't know if all of them remember it, but Stoddard remembers it.
Yeah, no question about
What was
that.
interesting about it, Stanhouse is warming up then. He's led the club in saves. Weaver has a 1-run lead. You think he's going to pinch hit for Stoddard? I mean, we all have seen him take, NCAA basketball player, 6'8". Could hit the ball hard, and all of a sudden he's got a base hit. Only hit in history.
Lonnie Smith takes inside, ball 1.
I mean, when I faced Blyleven in '79 and hit a ball to the warning track, I thought I should have got a credit for a hit that night.
Honorable mention.
Yeah, exactly.
2-0 the count. Here's Charlie Lebrand, who is scheduled to pitch tomorrow night against Danny Cox in Game 2. The left-hander who came out of the pen and did a great job in relief of Saberhagen the other night. Strike, 2-1.
Well, it's quite obvious, excuse me, Al, but it's quite obvious that the lack of the DH hurts the American League club more than it does the National League club when they use the DH.
And especially so in this circumstance, going back to what we talked about earlier with Hal McRae in particular. But you're right, generally speaking, McRae aside, that would prove to be the case, I think. Danny Cox in the Cardinal dugout, tomorrow night starting pitcher, and Lonnie Smith is down on strikes. 4 Ks for Tudor after 5 full. Cards 2, Royals 1. Cards 2, Royals 1. Reggie Jackson working the series with us, our pregame analyst. Let's get a mid-game analysis from the Reggie room.
No, I guess what I can see from the start of the ball game, I saw why you get a home field advantage. I saw John Tudor, who doesn't walk a lot of people, walk a man or two early in the ball game. I saw the left fielder, Tito Landrum, have a little problem throwing the ball. He made an error, his first error in an awful long time. He's an outstanding fielder, 3 errors in 6 years. And so you see this man could be working on a shutout if they were in their home ballpark.
Well, they're in Kansas City where it's 2-1. The Cardinals on top, and in the 6th inning, Hurd tries to bunt his way on. Brad has to barehand throw and guns him down. When you've got a bat like that, you tend to forget about the leather.
Well, George Brett has made a public statement that his biggest thrill this year would be to win a Gold Glove. And when you continue to make plays like that, got a pretty good shot at it. What a play.
Well, again, the agility. You lose that weight. He said that it's his best year of fielding. He's always had fairly good range and a somewhat erratic arm. But there, Herr sees him back, drops down, just almost a perfect bunt. And George makes a perfect play to get him.
Yeah, and he was playing Herr deep on that play. That wasn't any, playing him even with the bag or anything.
1-0 pitch to Clark is lifted in the air down the line, and it's Motley chasing it down, and then to the catch for the second out. 2 down, and Landrum coming to the plate. As the saying goes, friends, this telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Landrum at the plate, 2 out, bases empty. Brett's reputation, of course, is a tremendous offensive player, and we were talking about how you can forget about the glove. Almost reminds me in a way, too, of Mike Schmidt in Philadelphia. If you think of Schmidt, all you think about are home runs, but Mike has a few Gold Gloves himself.
He certainly does.
Foul away again, and it's still 0-2.
And that's where they ought to stay with Tito Landrum. Again, Tito played with the Orioles for about a month and a half when I played with him in '83. The double he hit was a ball away. You're talking about most guys like to get their arms extended so they hit the ball out of the ballpark. That's true with Tito, even though he's not a home run hitter. They jammed him the first time, then they went away. Got him out one time, the other time he doubled.
And they'll get him out here as Sundberg makes the catch. And Danny Jackson has a 1-2-3 inning. We're in the middle of the sixth with the Cardinals on top. No Subway Series, no Freeway Series, no International World Series, but the I-70 World Series, and Peter Uberoth, the Commissioner of Baseball, won't have to leave the state this week. A ribbon of highway separating these two Missouri cities. Kansas City on the border of Kansas, and at the other end of the state, St. Louis on the Illinois border. Along the mighty Mississippi, where we'll be on Tuesday for Game 3. Bottom of the sixth inning with Willie Wilson to lead off, then Brett and White. John Tudor protecting the one-run lead. Good change. 1-1.
Well, that's what happens when you win 20 out of 21. You can make that pitch. You get behind him, take a little bit off, swings right through it.
Soft looper into left center for a base hit on a half swing. So Willie Wilson, the leadoff man, gets aboard in the bottom of the sixth inning as the tying run.
Well, after that 1-0 change, John Tudor came back with a 1-1 change. Willie Wilson trying to get off the Snyder of striking out 12 times in the 1980 series. And he did it primarily with that high fastball. That was the scouting report by the Phillies, but obviously the Cardinals with John Tudor think they could get him out with something other than the high fastball. Not then.
So Willie Wilson, who had 43 steals this season and was caught 11 times, with Brett at the plate. And George gets under it and pops it up for Tommy Herr. One pitch to Brett, and they get him. So Wilson is still at first. George upset with himself.
Well, you can see a kind of a slight smile on his face because he knew he just got a pitch that was a home run pitch. Fastball in the middle of the plate. I don't believe that's where John Tudor wanted it, and he just popped it. I mean, he is human. Even if you do hit 335, you still make some outs, and it's a good pitch to hit. Good swing. In fact, a home run swing. George's theory on hitting is you don't go up there to try to hit a home run. You try to hit the ball hard, and with that kind of swing, a lot of times you do.
Now White at the plate. Wilson at first base. Held on by Clark. Outfield plays White straight away. And it's low, ball one. 1-0 the count.
And there you see the graphic. Willie with 33 steals out of 41 attempts. I'm not really sure if that's the true graphic. I think it was more like 40 out of 51, but Willie doesn't really like to run. It's almost a situation where you kind of wonder if maybe Dick Howser might have maybe not a hit and run, but a run and a hit. Because the one thing Frank White can do, even though he's batting in the fourth spot, is handle the bat.
Wilson with 43 steals, as we stated, caught 11 times. This is total. 1-0 the count on White.
Wilson, good speed at first base. Let's see who covers. Open mouth, you take it, and that means Tommy Herr is covering.
Nobody's going to cover this one the way it looks because it's hit to deep left center field and it's caught by Landrum, and Wilson, who was all the way down to second, turns and retreats. So nobody had to worry about covering second base as White gave that one a ride, but again, a forgiving ballpark, both for the visitors and the home club.
Really made it into a routine catch. When the ball came off the bat, you think up the alley. Again, another example of why it's nice to pitch for the Cardinals. They run him down, and he certainly did. Wind's blowing in a little bit. Probably held up that ball a little bit. Again, just because you hit in the fourth spot doesn't mean you're a home run hitter, even though Frank did have 22.
And that baby left up the bat, it looked like it had a chance.
Sure did. Yeah, he hit that ball awfully well. Again, what he said, the difference between maybe 17 home runs last year and 22 this year is he hit a lot on the road.
Ozzie Smith just said Tommy Herr was covering again. Ozzie giving the sign with the open mouth behind the glove so the hitter can't see it. Open mouth, you got it. Closed mouth, I'll take it. We'll check it out one more time. There it is. Tommy Herr covering.
Fouled away, and the count is 0-1.
It's actually a yoga exercise. Al does that a lot. You know, they call that the lion. You do that and you reduce the double chin.
I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised that you said that, number one, and I'm a little surprised that Herr is covering on a play like this because Sundberg has already shown that he'll go the other way.
And he pitches him away, and the count is 1-1.
As he did against the Blue Jays the other night with that triple off the right field fence.
Again fouled away.
Kind of a subtle thing here, but the count's 2-2. If he does go to 3-2, and we saw in the split finger where Willie Wilson wasn't running, the minute the count goes to 3-2, Wilson will be off with the pitch. And if there is an extra base hit, you know he's going to score. Might even score on a long single.
And he'll be going here because it is 3-2. So Wilson will be off and moving, full count, and 2 down.
And again, if you're pitching, you don't worry about that if there's a slow runner on first. I mean, because you know it's going to take a long double to score him. But Willie, they had a ball up the gap.
There he goes, and it's fouled away. So after that wind sprint, Wilson goes back to first. And again, 3-2 to Sundberg with Motley on deck.
You know, we talk about missing the DH and whatever, but again, it goes back to something I think, and there we see Darryl Motley, who's on deck. What even is more important is the quality hitter that Hal McRae is. I mean, he 46 RBIs in 56 games after he became the regular designated hitter. So not only do you miss the actual designated hitter, you miss McRae's ability to hit. I mean, he's just not anybody.
Go to first base. McRae very much responsible for the resurgence of the Royals, who at one point were 7.5 back this year. And his individual streak coincided with them collectively as it's grounded down to Pendleton. And he throws to first. And the inning is over for the Royals as they strand Wilson and still trail 2-1 going to the 7th. Pretty good little ball game for the first game of the World Series. 2-1. The Cardinals on top. Cesar Cedeno, who drove in the tie-breaking run with a double in the 4th inning to lead off. And then we'll see Pendleton and Porter. A couple of key plays in the game. We talked about Biancalana missing the suicide squeeze. Terry Pendleton made a tremendous catch and then threw Sundberg out at the plate. And that would have tied the game in the 4th. Tudor and Jackson have gone all the way, and Danny now ready to face Cedeno, who has struck out and doubled.
The only mistake he's really made is that leadoff walk to Pendleton back in the 3rd inning. I mean, the 2 doubles that resulted in the 2nd run were pretty good pitches.
You can't classify those as mistakes.
Outside to Cesar, 1-0. Cedeno finally getting to play in a World Series. He, like Clark, with a team that had a succession of mediocre years in Houston. Then finally they did get into the playoffs in 1980 and lost that gut-wrenching playoff to Philadelphia. Cesar slinging and fouling it straight back our way and into the booth, in fact. 1-1. And somehow that one skipped up past the monitors and I think right by Reggie Jackson, who naturally as a DH let it keep on going.
I thought Reggie played a little outfield this year.
1-2 pitch is Luke down the line, curling foul, and Balboni makes a nice catch. Well, they went to school on Pendleton and figured out the angle. One away.
Well, you see a big power hitter like that, 36 home runs, strikes out 166 times. You don't think he's very mobile, but he has very soft hands. He is a good first baseman.
Only 12 errors on the year, and he makes a nice play on that pop foul ball.
Really, if he has any weakness around first base, it's just don't let him throw the ball.
Yeah, well, most first basemen have that, and a few catchers.
Pendleton fouls it away.
You're not personally talking about anybody up here in the booth.
Yes, I am, the guy in the middle, and the last name on your screen.
But first in your hearts.
The Perry O'Brien of catchers.
0-1 the count on Pendleton with 1 out of the bases empty. Cards on top 2-1. Ran it in on him, and he flips it at the plate, and the count is 0-2.
Well, that's what's amazing. I really do like Danny Jackson, and number one, he's got that live fastball that sails away and in. He's got the hard slider, but he's been staying in on the right-hand hitters all night and been very successful. That's what Balboni made the nice catch on, and then, as you just said, Al, staying right in on Pendleton's fist.
And down he goes. High heat. 6 in a row retired now by Danny Jackson, who also has 6 strikeouts, 2 gone.
Again, what we talked about, get ahead. Cardinal hitters are aggressive. You see where the ball is, 92-mile-per-hour fastball, a little bit off the plate. When you get ahead, hitter will have a tendency to expand the strike zone. There's a perfect example of them doing that.
2 out, Porter the batter. If the Royals get anybody on in the bottom of the inning, this could be Jackson's last inning. And there, a perfect illustration of what it means not to have the DH, where Dick Howser would not have to think about a relief pitcher right now. In the American League, he has to get his bullpen started in the World Series, and he's got Quisenberry up right now. 1-0. And there's Dan throwing in the bullpen with Jackson due to bat 4th in the bottom of the 7th. 2-0 the count.
Tell you, I love the way Danny Jackson drives off that back leg. A lot of times he'll end up in his motion and have that left leg dragging on the ground.
Well, what his windup reminds me of, and it goes back. In fact, one of the better pitching coaches in baseball wasn't really a pitcher. It was Rube Walker, who schooled Nolan Ryan, Tom Seaver, Jerry Koosman. 3 pitchers that are kind of up there in age and are still pitching, and mainly because they use their body. They just don't use their arm. Jackson is a perfect example of the guy. Watch the drive with his legs.
3-1 now the count on Porter with Tudor on deck.
Again, a classic windup. Again, you see the drive with his lower part of his body taking the strain off his arm. And then the follow through. A little bit unusual there.
And unusual 3-1, 2 out, bases empty. A little visit here from Blaylock.
Again, I think that it's a situation where you don't want to give Porter a pitch that he can drive out of the ballpark. Again, 10 on the year. You do have the pitcher coming up next. And you're just making a priority choice, really. Just don't want to get mentally lazy.
3-2
and he throws him a slider.
Only reason I said unusual for Blaylock at that point, did you ever feel that it would upset your rhythm to be paid a visit in the middle of a count?
Depends if it was Weaver or Bamberger.
Down goes Porter. Great line. Still 2-1 Cardinals after 6.5.
IBM presents You Make the Call. A batter bunts a ball that bounces up and strikes his bat in fair territory. But wait, the batter was still in the batter's box when it happened. Is he safe or out? You make the call. A batter is considered out if his bat hits the ball a second time in fair territory, even if he's still in the batter's box. If you said so, then you made the right call.
That's the presentation for you Monday. The undefeated Chicago Bears coming off that impressive victory over the 49ers last week. Take on Green Bay at 9 Eastern time. And a reminder, tomorrow night we are here for Game 2 of the 1985 World Series. 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Looks inviting. At the concession stand here at this beautiful facility. Located about 8 to 10 miles east of downtown Kansas City. Jim mentioning before, doubleheader here tomorrow. Rams, Chiefs at Arrowhead, 12 o'clock. Royals We'll be on at 7 Central. Just outside, ball 1. Motley sort of squat and compactly built but powerful.
Reminds me a lot of Jim Wynn.
Yeah.
Of course, you probably caught a lot of pitches against they call him the toy cannon.
The toy cannon hit the longest ball ever in the Houston Astrodome, did Jimmy Wynn. There's Dick Howser. Dick won 103 ball games for the New York Yankees back in 1980.
And in essence got fired. Strike 1 and 2, even though they let him resign. Dick Howser winning 103, but then he made the terrible mistake of losing 3 straight to Jim Fry's Royals. And that, among other factors, I had a feeling that Steinbrenner was going to axe Howser anyway. Motley hits it in the air to left field, and racing over is Landrum to make the catch. 1 away as Balboni comes up. But also, Howser and Steinbrenner were not really what you call a great mix. Steinbrenner not only wants his manager to make headlines in the sports pages, he wants his manager to be on the front page occasionally. And let's face it, in terms of public perception, Howser to Billy Martin would be like, what, the Salvation Army next to the SWAT team.
Quite an analogy there, Mr. Michaels.
Let's face it, that is one of the reasons that Dick was let go. Strike, and the count is 0-1. But Dick has fit in very, very comfortably in Kansas City. 1-1 the count.
You talk to people here, and they say the one thing that he says is that you don't get quite as much interference from the front office here in Kansas City as he did in New York.
1 ball, 2 strikes again on Balboni, with Biancalana due up next, but Lynn Jones has come out on deck. So we'll probably see back-to-back pinch hitters. And it's 2-2.
Again, you can see John Tudor working that inside corner, trying to get ahead. And it does look, Timmy, that he's back in his rhythm. I mean, he's thrown a lot of changeups and getting it over when he's behind in the count. But and there you see Porter. There's another changeup. Strike 3.
Great change.
John Tudor's a guy that has to stay away from the fat part of the plate, because coincidentally or otherwise, the fat part of the bat lies across the fat part of the plate. And there you see John Tudor with the straight change, and he gets Balboni.
2 down, and Lynn Jones, utility man who plays the outfield, the scholarly looking one, comes up to bat for Biancalana. Jackson for the moment comes out on deck. So if Jones gets on, you know you'll see a pinch hitter.
You know what's interesting is that when they announce a pinch hitter, almost all the Cardinals look into the dugout to see where to play him. That's one of the most difficult things. When you play in a championship playoff, you play a team you usually played 12 or 18 times a year. When you play in a World Series, they really may not know where Lynn Jones hits the ball.
And he hits it down the right field line, and there's no way to defense that. As it rattles around in the corner, and Jones around second. He's heading for third, and no relay. He's got a triple. Lynn Jones, who facing Tudor when John was in the American League, was 0 for 10 lifetime. Rips one to right, and the tying run is 90 feet away, and Hal McRae will be coming up.
Well, as I said, they don't know Lynn Jones. He is a right field hitter, but as you said, Al, you can't defense the line drive about three feet off the foul line. They might have been able to hold him for a double if they were shifted more to right field. And of course, one of the cardinal rules of baseball is with 2 outs, you don't go to third unless you know you can make it. But what it does, it causes a lot more pressure both on Tudor, both on Porter, both on the infielders. That ball in the hole, you have to come up. You know you don't have the luxury of holding a runner at third.
And that stirs the Cardinal bullpen. They have a right-hander and a left-hander. It looks like Todd Worrell and Ricky Horton, but it's too late to face Hal McRae.
5 5 career home runs. Nobody has more. Off Tudor. 2 out. And McRae, pinch hitting, takes outside, ball 1. Lynn Jones at third. Cardinals on top by a score of 2-1. And he hits him. So McRae goes to first base. So the go-ahead run is now on. And on a 2-0 pitch, McRae, who tried to take 2 for the club the other night in that playoff game and got neither call from the umpire, takes one here.
A little bit different story here with the 2-0 count. And, of course, I think he was trying to make that good pitch on the inside corner. And the ball just sailed a little bit. Now Whitey is out to talk to Tudor, but there's no way that Worrell or Ricky Horton could be ready by now.
And no way to say that McRae was looking to get hit by a pitch.
No.
Now wanted to swing the bat right here, even though he is the go-ahead run, and he has been replaced by Onyx Concepcion, who goes into pinch run, and then Concepcion, there he is, will stay in the game for Biancalana at shortstop. Herzog took a very leisurely walk, and now gets involved with Denkinger. And Whitey, with Denkinger taking the lineup card out, indicating that he's going to make a double switch right here, because Tudor, the pitcher, due to lead off in the 8th inning, and so the double switch will be made. So Worrell comes in, so does Van Slyke, replacing Cedeno and Wright. 2-1 Cards. If anybody is the main man out of the bullpen, and they call it a bullpen by committee, it's Todd.
Well, it's unusual. I talked to Mike Rourke, the pitching coach, and he struggled in the minor leagues. Here's a guy that's got a fastball in the middle 90s, a real hard slider, nothing else to go with it, but you don't need anything else to go with it if you're a short man. But he threw overhand, and they dropped his arm down a little bit. He got a little bit more movement on the ball, and as you just said, Al, he's become their main man. He's the kind of guy that comes right in and throw the ball right by you. Of course, we do have Lonnie Smith here, a dead fastball hitter and a high ball hitter, and we got a fastball pitcher on the mound.
First and third with 2 down, 2-1 Cardinals. Outside, ball 1. 1-0. His opening salvo is clocked at 93.
And he almost threw it right by Darrell Porter.
Yeah, a lot of times you think a catcher makes a good play on a ball only in the dirt. That was a good play on a ball that never got to the dirt because it was 93 miles an hour, about 2 inches off the ground, and Porter had to go to his right for it.
Fouled away. 1-1. Lynn Jones, the tying run, is at third. The pinch runner, Onyx Concepcion, is at first. 2-2. That's a risky run, too. Porter making a nice backhanded stop.
That's that same type of stop he made.
Well, when you're sitting high and tight, and there you can see him, he's on the inside corner, and the guy throws the ball 95 miles per hour, about 6 inches outside. You got to do the shuffle.
Quick reactions.
2-2 pitch is outside. So full count, and the runner from first, Concepcion, will take off. Jones at third. Concepcion representing the go-ahead run, held on by Clark. He'll be moving with a pitch. 3-2. And with the crowd rising as one, it's ball 4. Everybody got to their feet. So with the bases loaded now, and 2 down, Willie Wilson is the batter. It has been one of the better 2-1 ball games I've ever seen.
Things were a little listless early here tonight, but they're heating up in a hurry.
Well, here we get that situation in 80. They pitch Willie Wilson high fastballs from the left side, 12 strikeouts, not all of them left-handed.
And he hits it in the air down the line, and racing it is Landrum, and he gets there on the run in foul ground. And the Royals wind up leaving the bases loaded. And we'll go to the eighth. Cardinals hanging by a thread, leading 2-1. Back after this word from our local stations. Concepcion stays in the game as short. He'll hit ninth since he ran from McRae. And the new pitcher is Dan Quisenberry. And let's get a comment now from Reggie Jackson as we go to the eighth.
Well, the Royals have really played pretty well. Danny Jackson, I felt, really outpitched John Tudor. John Tudor, who's had a great year, really didn't pitch that well tonight. He had a few problems, a little bit shaky. Maybe it was the fact he was in a different ballpark. But Danny Jackson has proved that the Kansas City Royals have real good pitching. They've held the St. Louis Cardinals to only 4 runs. So we're going to see some good baseball.
And we have seen 7 innings of pretty good baseball to this point. 2-1, the Cardinals on top with Andy Van Slyke hitting for the first time, batting in the 9th spot. So McGee and Ozzie Smith to follow against the Quiz, who did not have his best season, but it's all relative. He still led the league in saves, which he's done now 4 times. 1-1, and even though he had some problems in his first 2 appearances in the playoffs, you go with who got you there, and Howser brought him back twice more, and he did the job.
Well, that's the point, is that I think arguably maybe the 3 best teams in baseball this year were the New York Mets, the Cardinals, and Toronto, yet Kansas City ended up beating them. But not only did they beat them, with the exception of the first game, they were in every ball game. And they had a chance to win every game. No doubt about it. When the game is in the balance, and maybe this is what makes Dick Howser a good manager. He goes to this gentleman right here. Well, what's interesting, and Timmy, you caught so many pitchers, is that most guys get in trouble when they drop their arm.
And he gets him with a pitch on the outside corner for strike 3.
Quisenberry basically was a side armor that became an under armor. So when he gets his arm up, and of course that pitch is a little borderline, but Van Slyke thinks it's a ball, and Quisenberry says, oh, yay, it's a strike. Ball right on the corner, though. But when he's effective, he keeps the ball out of the middle of the plate and down. And that's what he did the last couple of games against Toronto.
Willie McGee, 1 for 3. The one hit a double, and then he was thrown out on a textbook relay.
It's an interesting thing about Dan Quisenberry. I mean, he's had years of 44 saves, 45 saves. If you go back and think of the classic relievers, who do you think of? You think of maybe Raleigh Fingers and Gossage, and you think of the hard throwers. I mean, he's really an anomaly. I mean, very few guys, other maybe the Colby.
Or you think of a specialty pitcher like Bruce Sutter in the split finger fastball.
But even then, I mean, if you think of premier relievers, you'd more or less think of Sutter. Maybe not this year with the arm problems and going down to Atlanta and not being successful. And there you see the left on base. Again, it's something that Kansas City can't afford. Point that Reggie brought up, they just don't figure to score that many runs. When they get the opportunities, they're going to have to cash in on them, and they haven't done that tonight.
Well, the Royals an oddity in the sense that they win a pennant with the 13th highest batting average in the American League, and crazily only the Angels were below them, and it was the Royals and the Angels that went down to the end in the West. Grounded down to White, who charges and throws him out. Can't be casual with McGee.
And he wasn't. Talk about a quick release. Again, scouting reports, you know McGee can run. Just look how quickly. In and out of the glove. Otherwise, it's base hit.
Well, those are also the things you have to do when you don't score a lot of runs. You have to be almost picture perfect on defense, and the Royals have been that tonight.
And the Cardinals have also turned in their share with Pendleton's gem coming initially to mind. Up high, ball 1-0 the count.
Well, not only that, but Tito Landrum, the last play to get him out of that last inning. It went a long way for the ball. It goes a long way for White's ball in left center. Again, what you said in the pregame, Timmy. You don't hit the ball on the line, and it's a sure single or double, they're going to run it down, and they've done that tonight.
Call them hump getters. Anything with a loop in it, they catch.
2-0 pitch is grounded down to short, and Concepcion, no relation to the Reds. Davey throws it out, and the Cardinals Cardinals go quietly in the 8th. They're 7.5 in game 1. St. Louis 2, Kansas City 1. Back to Kansas City and George Brett to lead off in the bottom of the 8th inning here. 2-1, the Cardinals on top. A lot of Redbirds fans here tonight. Somehow they sneaked a few tickets.
Yeah, here in Kansas City, the capacity is only 40,636. Can't house too many here, but most of them housed here are interested in this confrontation coming up.
Well, here is Brett, White, and Sundberg. Todd Worrell working here in the bottom half of the 8th inning. Cardinals 2, Royals 1.
Think of Todd Worrell, and you think of the last time I did a playoff with a guy that threw that hard was Gossage, 1980. And what did George do? Hit him the 3rd deck in Yankee Stadium to bury the Yankees. And Dick Howser.
And I'll never forget that night because the crowd was going insane, thinking there would be a strikeout, and the next thing you knew, dead silence. And he hits one in the air to deep right field. Van Slyke is going back as if he has a play, and he does. A great pass. Andy Van Slyke. And I think about the other day when he went back on Mike Marshall's ball like that, and you thought he had it, and out it went. But this one he gauged correctly.
Well, the one thing that Whitey Herzog did when he made the double switch, not only did he bring in Todd Worrell, but he put in a better defensive right fielder who can jump. Good play by Andy Van Slyke. He found the wall. Now, this is not a brilliant play, but it is a good play. But you saw how high he could get up the other day when Mike Marshall's ball went out in the bottom of the 8th.
It becomes a little more radiant considering the circumstances. World Series, 1-run ball game, leadoff batter. 1-0. You're right, it doesn't make this week in baseball in the regular season, but it will make the World Series film. Popped up near the plate in foul ground. It's Porter making the play. 2 down. Brett 1 for 4. It's funny, an infield single, then he got a pitch he knew he should have hit and popped up. Then he hits one to the wall and he's gone.
Well, George is the type of hitter, we said before, his basic philosophy is to go up and hit the ball hard. But I do believe, after pitching against him for almost about 10 years, is that he does in late inning situation. And as Timmy said before, you go up and look for a ball in a certain zone. He knows the count's 1-0. He's looking for a ball on the inside part of the plate that he can't pull. Again, you got to give Mr. Worrell out on the mound with his 95-mile-per-hour fastball some credit. He just has a little bit of zip, and George just didn't get all the ball.
That's grounded down to 3rd, and Terry Pendleton corrals it, and down go the Royals. Hardly silently, but down they go anyway. To the 9th we go. 2-1 St. Louis. On to the 9th inning we go. Kansas City Royals Stadium. Al Michaels with Jim Palmer and Tim McCarver. Game 1 of the World Series, and it's been a good one. 2-1. The Cardinals on top. 2 runs, 4 hits, and 1 error. 1 run, 7 hits, and no errors for the Royals. Herr, Clark, and Landrum. And then when the Royals come up in the bottom of the 9th inning, Motley, Balboni, and then Quisenberry's spot. He's inning number 8. Herr hasn't hit the ball out of the infield tonight. He is 0 for 3. Quisenberry in relief of Danny Jackson, who did a nice job tonight. But right now, on the losing end. Strike, 0-1.
You throw a young man 23 years old into the heat of a World Series and have him come out doing as fine a job as Jackson did, you take your hat off to him.
One and one. Cardinals perfect in similar situations going into the 9th. 86-0 in games in which they led going into the 9th inning.
It's a good way to win 101 games, I guess.
Right. That's grounded toward the middle, and White can't backhand. Base hit for her.
Well, Quisenberry did have a problem this year. Tanders, of course, he did get off to a bad start, hit over 300, right around 313 off him.
It's only the second time tonight the Cardinals have gotten the leadoff man on. The other time was the third inning when Pendleton walked and he came in to score.
Again, that's the only mistake that Danny Jackson really did make, something that you can control. As Tim said, a lot of times you make pretty good pitches and the hitters are a little bit better than you, and that's how they got the second run. But the first run was a gift, kind of, more or less. Leadoff walk, a roller into right by Porter.
A lot of things to mull over in this one tonight. One-run ball game. If it stays that way, you had Biancalana's missed suicide squeeze, Pendleton's great play, not only a great catch, but he threw Sundberg out at the plate, and he would have been the tying run. Landrum chasing down Wilson's foul fly with the bases loaded in the 7th inning.
You mentioned the Cardinals never having lost a game this year with the lead in the 9th inning. I think it's interesting to note that last year there was one team with a perfect record going into the 9th inning, and that team, the Detroit Tigers, world champions.
It's lined to left field sharply and over the head of Lonnie Smith, who looked like he had a play on it, and now he has to chase it down, and Tommy Herr around third will come in to score. 3-1. Clark is in a rundown, and Concepcion runs right at him as he should. Now to Brett, and Brett throws to White, and Jack is gone. But it's 3-1. So a base running mistake from Clark, but Lonnie Smith on a ball that looked like he was going to catch, or at least attempt to catch, has it go over his head, and the Cardinals get a big run.
One of the toughest plays for an outfielder is the ball hit right at him. You don't really know if it's in the light. Again, looks like if he had taken a couple of steps back, he might have been able to catch it. Ball could have knuckled, could have had a lot of top spin. And then again, Lonnie Smith is more known for his offense than his defense.
Well, that's true. It looked to me like Lonnie thought the ball was going to hit the wall, but instead it hit the fence out there, and it didn't have the carom that he expected. And consequently, by the time he got to the ball, Herr had scored easily.
So one out and the base is empty, and Landrum the batter, and there is Lonnie. Funny, if the Royals lead by one, he's probably out. They make a defensive change, but when you're in arrears, you got to keep those bats in the lineup. 2-0 the count. Clark mad at himself for getting run down, and it's a base hit into right field.
Jack especially mad right now. Overrunning second base, and he was in no man's land. And Concepcion made the proper play, running right at him, and Landrum gets his second hit of the night, and that would have moved Clark at least to third with nobody out, and the Cardinals would have had a chance to salt it away.
3-1. One out, and Landrum at first, and now Worrell, who came into the game in the number 6 spot, is the batter. Up only one time without a hit. Again, he spent most of the season in the minor leagues at Louisville, and he was a starting pitcher until they made him a reliever about halfway through the season.
And we should expect a bunt here. Again, trying to add a run. Get another runner in the scoring position.
With Pendleton on deck.
That was interesting in that bunting situation. Quisenberry threw a slider. Bob Gibson used to like to throw sliders to pitchers or anybody in a bunting situation. And it's a dangerous pitch for a catcher because your first reaction is to go out after it, and that's how you get those split fingers.
No balls. Go ahead.
Really expose those fingers to that slider, and because it hits off the end of the bat, it's that cueing action.
Now Worrell tries to bunt and can't bunt that one, and the count is no balls and 2 strikes.
Well said by an ex-catcher. Let me ask you a question. When Gibson wanted to throw that slider, did you put down fastball? I mean, I would have saved my fingers if he'd shake you off anyway. You put down fastball, they'd still throw the slider.
Speaking of Gibson, he's in the ballpark tonight. I was visiting with him before the game. He'd still knock you down.
Well, it was in the opening game of the 1968 series that he set a World Series record by striking out 17 Detroit Tigers.
Then the Cardinals went down to defeat after a 3-1 edge. The Tigers came roaring back and beat them 3 in a row.
And Worrell tries to bunt again and foul tips it into Sunbury's glove, and that is strike 3. So Worrell can't do the job. Cardinals on top 3-1, but 2 down now with Landrum at first base and Pendleton is the batter. We can tell you tomorrow and this week with David Brinkley. Israeli Prime Minister Shimon Peres will discuss the Middle East peace process in the aftermath of the Achille Lauro hijacking. This week with David Brinkley tomorrow morning on ABC. Pendleton, who comes up left-handed for the first time tonight, he hit .244 left-handed this season. And that one gets away from Sundberg. So wouldn't you know it, Worrell can't bunt him along, and then Sundberg can't handle the pitch.
Sometimes instead of catching the ball close to your body, you have a tendency to stab at it. And you see Sundberg there trying to stab at the ball, and the ball hit the heel of the glove, it appeared, or certainly the harder edge of the glove. You know, and it's a pass ball on Sundberg.
Look at this again. You know, Quisenberry fools around with a knuckleball.
It almost does look like a knuckleball.
Meanwhile, Howser is going to the mound. There's activity in the bullpen. Appears to be Bud Black. And it is the left-hander. Black, a starting pitcher, but right now, in this particular situation in the World Series, in the bullpen. An oddity of oddities here. Here's your closer, the man who's supposed to do the job, and he comes out, and a starting pitcher comes in. 3-1 St. Louis. Bud Black, appearing in 3 games in the championship series against Toronto, comes in to pitch here. Black, who was really the ace of the staff in 1984, the ace of a very inexperienced and young but very good staff that won the West, all of a sudden this year gets passed up by Saberhagen and has a real rough first half of the season and then a pretty decent second half of the season, with Howser having a little more confidence in him at the end than certainly in the middle or beginning part of the year.
Well, it goes back to what everybody says about Dick Howser, that he's very patient. I mean, they were 7.5 back. They come up, get a lead, they go on a losing streak. He doesn't panic. The same thing with Bud Black. 17-12 last year, 10-15 this year. You'd think you'd lose faith in a guy like that, but it seemed like when you talk to people, you say, how can a guy go from winning 17 and 12 to 10 and 15? They said it just seemed like he'd always make the wrong pitch at the right time. And a lot of times you have years like that.
He inherits the 0-1 pitch, and he will walk him intentionally. So Pendleton, the switch hitter, drawing the walk, and so Porter, the left-handed batter, will come up, which is why Howser has made this move. He wants lefty against lefty, and so Porter will be coming up here with runners at first and second and 2 down. Cardinals on top 3-1. Again, in the bottom of the 9th inning, the Royals start with a 6-hitter. That's Motley, then Balboni, and we may even see a pinch hitter for Motley now that Worrell is in the ball game. Conceivably Sheridan could come up, though Howser will probably, I would think, save Sheridan for a situation where he'd be the tying run. And
George Order is definitely a possibility for Motley.
Yep.
Of course, Pat Sheridan with 2 home runs in the ALCS.
And then the third man up in the inning after Balboni is the pitcher, so he'll need another pinch hitter. He's already used McRae and Jones, and Concepcion has come in for Biancalana defensively. The count. 3-0. And Porter is on, so the bases are loaded now. And Van Slyke comes up.
Right fielder, Andy Van Slyke.
Van Slyke had a very poor championship series, as you can see, 1 for 11. And he will forever live in trivia infamy as the guy who was on deck when Clark hit it out.
With first base open.
With first base open, exactly. the pitch is outside, ball one.
I thought it was very interesting, though, what he said to you yesterday about when you asked him, he said, did you kind of hope that they were going to pitch around Clark and you could be the hero? And he said, yeah. He said, I'm kind of happy the way things turned out, but don't get me wrong.
1-1 to count.
Goes back to what Reggie said. You want somebody that is aggressive, that wants to be the hero, and has a lot of self-confidence. And Andy Van Slyke has all of those qualities.
1-2 the count. Van Slyke, much touted early on in his career, and the Cardinals kept making a lot of moves, and it seemed that the rationale behind all the moves was to get Van Slyke more playing time.
Played 5 positions last year, first base, third base, and all 3 outfield positions.
But he's still platoon, and down he goes on strike. So Buddy Black goes right to the edge, but strikes Van Slyke out, and the Cardinals leave 3. 3-1 St. Louis after 8 1/2. So game 1, 3-1 the score. The Cardinals on top. And Pat Sheridan will be leading things off for Kansas City in the bottom of the 9th inning. Sheridan will bat for Motley. Then Balboni will come up. And then they'll need another pinch hitter. Sheridan, who hit only 3 home runs during the regular season, hit 2 in the playoffs. And frankly, Dick Howser had 2 problems with his ball club this year. Number 1 was shortstop, where he finally settled on Biancalana at the end, though he got no offensive production from either man, Biancalana or Concepcion. And the other was, frankly, the platoon between Motley and Sheridan, which just didn't work out the way Howser had hoped.
Well, Sheridan was hurt earlier in the year, had a hamstring pull, and then when they brought him back and he got healthy, he just played very poorly. Situation where Howser really had not much choice. He had to play Motley.
And he rips it down the line in right field and into the corner. And Sheridan around first is on his way to second and in there with a double. So the tying run comes to the plate.
Here's a guy like Pat Sheridan coming off the bench. He has never faced Todd Worrell in his life. He looks for a fastball, gets it, and whacks it. He was looking in one area for one pitch right there, and if he didn't get it, he would have looked foolish, but he knew he was going to get it, especially with the Cardinals in a 2-run lead.
So Sheridan, who has really come to life in postseason play, is at second base, and Balboni will be up there swinging for the downs, taking high, ball 1, 1-0.
I wonder how many times Todd Worrell has had to pitch this long. When I talked to Mike Rourke, again, the pitching coach, he said, usually what we try to do is just have him go through the lineup once. You don't have to have that breaking ball. He's getting to the point where...
That's grounded to the right side, and Clark will make the play, and Balboni not trying to hit it to the right side. He just didn't make very good contact as Sheridan moves over to third. So 1 away. Sheridan at third base, but the consequential run is at the plate, and George Orta will come up to bat for Buddy Black. In the bullpen, the Cardinals are busy with a lefty and a righty, and that means Ken Daly is up and throwing, the left-hander, and Jeff Lottie is the right-hander.
You got to be impressed with Worrell. He throws one belt high, the guy doubles, gets behind Balboni, and then he makes just about a perfect pitch, low and away. And you don't see Balboni have very many defensive swings like that. That was like a check swing roller to Clark at first.
No thought whatsoever of moving the runner to third base in a 2-run ball game in the 9th inning. You might think about it in the middle of the game, but Steve Balboni, let's face it, is never going to think about moving the runner to third base and hitting the ball to the right side. He's going for the pump.
George Orta, speaking of going for the pumps, is a man who has hit only 4 home runs this season. But he used to be a pretty good home run hitter. He was always up in the teens.
Well, that's because I used to pitch.
But he was
well, did he?
He hit everybody well. Right around 300 every year.
Came up with the White Sox, then went to Cleveland, the Dodgers, played with the Blue Jays for a while.
I literally threw him a fastball over his head that he hit over the bullpen in Baltimore.
Orta on a check swing, fouls it at the plate. And the count is 0-1.
But basically, you throw him fastballs away, and you're going to keep him in the ballpark. You're going to make him hit the ball the other way. Occasionally, you hang a breaking ball, a curveball, or a changeup. he can turn it on it pretty much. He's a lot more power than an Ozzie Smith, but similar. He'll look for pitches in certain situations and try to pull him. Otherwise, he's pretty much of a line drive hitter.
And he hits it in the air to center field. That's McGee in medium deep center field. He makes the catch, and there's no sense coming home, even though Woody rolls the ball in, as it turns out. The runner at third means zip. So Sheridan not even thinking about coming in.
Again, you go back to that mixed squeeze play, where you might have had a situation where you would have been trying to score that run.
Some strange things tonight. We talked about Biancalana missing the squeeze. Also, the two key Cardinal defensive plays, and this is something you almost never see, both happened in foul territory.
Yeah, that's
Pendleton
true.
And Landrum.
Well, it goes back to what Tim said earlier. They can beat you so many different ways, and tonight they've shown that. Good pitching, not a great hitting attack, but then again, you do neutralize that when you pitch a lefty, and Danny Jackson did a good job, but defensively, they've shown why they win ball games. And when you have a good defense, you have good pitching, you're going to be in a lot of games.
Dane Orridge is the batter. Orridge, who played with the Cardinals and had a great World Series in 1982, and whose brother Garth, as many of you know, is the third baseman, the platooning third baseman with the Toronto Blue Jays, comes up here to face his ex-mates, even though Worrell was not there when Orridge was. And he's the tying run. Hit .223 with one homer during the regular season. Looks at his strike. 0-1. 3-1 Cards. 2 out. Bottom of the ninth. Good fastball.
Great fastball. That's what they call a high rider at 96 miles per hour.
0-2. It's a lot of fun to sit on the bench all night long and face a 96-mile-an-hour fastball.
Well, it turns you into the defensive hitter. I mean,
well, that's one reason also that Mike Rourke was talking about going one time through the lineup, and that 96-mile-an-hour fastball becomes a 90-mile-an-hour straight fastball. Then you're in trouble.
And the 0-2 pitch is outside, so the Cardinals are a strike away. They lead 3-1.
Well, guys like Todd Worrell are the guys that make you good managers. You bring them up towards the end of the season, they throw 95, 96, and they throw the ball over the plate.
And the 1-2 pitch is just outside. A little shoulder motion from Dinkinger, but the right arm stayed down. The 3-2 pitch is hit in the air to shallow right field, but it hangs for Van Slyke, and the Cardinals lead in the series. And the fates and the fortunes. Todd Worrell spends most of the year in the minor leagues in Louisville and winds up with a save in Game 1 of the World Series. Scintillating defensive play by Pendleton. Good catch by Landrum. Biancalana's foiled suicide squeeze. And the Cardinals win it by a score of 3-1. We'll be right back. We'll take a look at a couple of key plays in this game. First of all, the Royals in the second inning getting their run and a chance for more. And Biancalana with a count 2-1. And Motley at third. Around to squeeze, the suicide squeeze, but he missed it, and that was that. It wasn't a picturesque rundown, but it staved off a run, and as it turned out, that was the end of the Royals' output tonight, a team that left 8 men on base and had 3 others thrown out. Meanwhile, Terry Pendleton made this great catch in the 4th inning in foul ground, and not only the catch, but the throw. He wheels and he fires, and he throws Sundberg, who tagged at third, out by 15 feet. A couple of key plays in tonight's Cardinal 3-1 victory. We'll be back. Al Michaels, Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver saying good night from Kansas City with a final score once again in Game 1. Cardinals 3 and the Royals 1.
In the top of the ninth, the Cardinals add an insurance run and then look to rookie reliever Todd Worrell to finish up. The Cardinals win it 3-1, marking the 4th consecutive year the visiting team has won the series opener. And in the first lap of this I-70 World Series, St. Louis has motored to an early lead.